he's kind of maybe pivoted to, or just how it's going with him. But to start off with, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Cornell's World. Cornell's World is one of North America's leaders in reptile caging and reptile supplies. You can get custom PVC cages, custom glass terrariums, standard PVC cages, all your normal Arcadia, Zoomed, Exoterra brand products, cleaning supplies, handling supplies, spider robotics. So yeah, go hit up cornellsworld.com and go place your order today. Also, check out WCRE for upcoming reptile shows. Last weekend we had a fantastic show in Calgary. Lots of people showed up, so it was a great show. Good to see listeners of the show there too. I know. I think his name's Morgan. He breeds water pythons and carpet pythons, so he was at the show. And there's actually a few other people, which is kind of neat to see. So yeah, if you guys want to come out to the August Calgary show, that'd be awesome. That'll be at a bigger venue on the other side of town. So you'll need to check that out at wcre.ca. Or if you're in Medicine Hat or Southern Alberta, come check out the June Medicine Hat show with all the details at wcre.ca. Alrighty, Don. How are you doing this evening?
Life is good, man. Life is good. It's been one heck of a week. I'll just leave it like that. The reason why it's been one heck of a week is not even animal related. I'm trying to fix my goddamn shed on the side of my house. I had to remove it, but I ended up removing the base, and I freaking caught poison ivy or poison oak. My kids did too, and like we've been covered with it. And I've been fighting, like it's been now 6 days, and man, I'm like all patched up. My son's arms were so bad, like it looked like he was like, I don't know, some kind of like monster. Like I'm not kidding. Like his entire fingers were like 3 times the size. He ended up having to get like oral antibiotics, oral prednisone, plus the what is it, betamethasone, or like really strong 5% to remove everything, and it's barely starting to work. And it's been like 7 days ago now. Like I still have some everywhere. I keep scratching, and it says that it's not contagious, that it's only the oil of the plant. It's been 6 days, and I keep having like spots. Like today I was scratching my ear, and I've got more freaking bubbles popping up on my ear, and I'm like, it's been 7 days. I'm going freaking nuts. So that's non-animal related. Animal related, honestly, I'm going to say it. I think it's going to be my worst year in the past like 6 or 7 years. It's really weird, man. Like, I don't get why I'm having such a crappy year. Like I think I had 12 clutches last year, the year before that 10, and I always average out between 100 to 150 babies. I have 23 eggs in the incubator, and I think I have 2 female gravid, and that's it left, which is pretty shitty. Like it's like it'll be like the lowest number I've had in probably 7 or 8 years. So very disappointing. I fed everything yesterday and only had 4 girls refuse food. 2 of them I know are gravid. I've got another inland that's due to lay in 3 days. Like she's doing the pretzel, inverted, all that. One jungle is definitely gravid. One of the tiny girls that I didn't even think was going to go, I popped in a male last minute with her just in case, and it tends to have worked. And that's about it. So I think I will end up with probably less than 40 babies in the end, which would be my all-time low, which, I mean, it's good, and it doesn't really matter because it's not an income for me, but still kind of sucks. Yeah. And to top it off, I went in the incubator, and the first clutch is I lost like 6 out of the 13 eggs. So my 23 eggs is actually already down to like 17, which is just like another slap in the face. The clutch of duds that had only 3 good eggs, 2 of them went bad the first day, so they weren't fertile. The one is hanging on. The inland clutch is still perfect. So just overall, it's just like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out. I know some people, sometimes they have a good year or a bad year. I think it's my turn to have a bad year. And it's funny because last year was literally my best year. And it was the first year that I hit like too many. But I'm finally doing the reverse from previous years. Like before, I used to have gigantic clutches and less clutches. And I've been slowly making smaller females, not going overboard on gigantic females, but more of them. Like I'd prefer having 3 clutches of 10 eggs than having 1 of 35, right? And when I say 35, I actually had girls that would give me that because, you know, they were fed too much and all that. And over time, you've slowly changed over. So I prefer having more clutches and less eggs now. But yeah, it's It's funny how I'm disappointed with having only like 5 clutches this year, which to me
It's
it's a
probably
low
still
number.
more than me.
Well,
It's going to be more than my whole season, I bet. So
yeah, well, it's to me it's almost to the point where I'm like, maybe I'm not even going to wholesale or export out to Japan because I might not even have
no.
enough. And I tend
Well,
to
you
do it with
might have enough inlands though.
fuck. I'm gonna have well, if I have 2 clutches of inlands, I don't even know. Like I literally sold 1 inland last year, so I'm gonna have to wholesale them out of the country because there's not enough interest.
Yeah.
But
Or Canada's getting a lot of pure inlands as their carpets for the year.
well, honestly, I don't think it's a
screw
bad
the
thing.
mutt stuff that's out there. Let's
And
get
go
some
figure,
inlands
right?
into
I'm
people's hands.
literally the only person in Canada that has ever bred inlands, and it's not an accomplishment. Like it's being done in the States all the time, right? But there's never been inlands bred in Canada. Until 5 or 6 years ago, I think I was one of the only person in Canada that had them. They were a pain in the ass and really hard to get, and finding a female took forever. I finally get them. I finally breed them, and then UK Pythons freaking floods the market and brings in like 10 of them to Canada. Now everybody that wanted them has them, and then my babies are just like, well, we already have them. Which, anyway, and he cut the market by like so much. They were like 800 to 1,000, even plus. Like I paid over $1,000 for mine, and now at $300, I sold one.
It was like
Yeah.
170. It was like 175 pounds or whatever, which is like
Yeah, but
$300.
it's like 300 by the time you pay the export fees and all that. They end up being under $400 ordering through UK Python. So, and don't get me wrong, like it's great. I like the fact that it's there, but yeah, it kind of killed the market. But if he stops selling from him, because I know he went to some kind of a retailer in the States. I don't know. I saw the post saying that because he's going to stop. If he does that, then it's going to remove our capabilities of buying anything from him, which is going to suck because
I think he is retiring and probably selling the business or something, I would assume.
Yeah, but then if we can't get him from Europe, we won't be able to get anything because the States is pretty much impossible to get anything from there, right?
Yeah, well, so we could still get him from other European guys, but he was the main guy with the permits and knew how to do it. So yeah.
Who else is there? Like there's the heck is his name there? The Diamond Python guy there, Phil Starsky.
Yeah.
So there's still him, but he doesn't breed as many Morelias. He breeds a lot of diamonds, and he brought in like I think there's been over like 8 or 9 diamonds that came in from him, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Although
Aslam did that for years, and he had to export them all, but is what it is.
Yeah. What's new with you, Michael? So we can bring on Terry after. I don't want to talk too much because he's really the reason why the show's on today.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I've let's see where to start because we actually weren't even here last week. We postponed Anthony's show to come out a week later. But yeah, no, I had a reptile show last week in Calgary, which was fun. Like I said earlier, saw listeners there, which is kind of cool. Sold a few animals. I was working Tyrone's table and obviously helped with the setup and takedown of the show. Saw some good friends there like Jalen and all those guys. And then, I didn't buy anything other than the PVC for the tortoise table I've been building because now I got Herman's tortoises coming after the BC show.
I don't believe you didn't buy anything, man. You get new animals every week. I call bullshit on that one.
No, I haven't bought anything this week. Although I did upgrade the newt larvae, the yellow spotted newts I have grown up, and there's a couple. Move them up to a 20-gallon. They're still laying eggs periodically since like 2 months ago. So there's like slow growers. So I assume it'd be cool to have them actually at a table in the fall shows, which will be fun. So I think they'll do well because I think the rib newts there was like a time where like they were the main ones and now their sales are kind of slowing down, but maybe the price just needs to come down. But the yellow spotteds are still like they're like the new people have them, but I think they could make their way into like the general pet keeping because they're way more colorful than the rib newts kind of thing, and they're just as easy to keep. Just keep them ambient and they're good to go. Keep them like a fish.
So just so people know, Michael is going into this gigantic tangent into like amphibians, which means that I'm going to have to figure out what the heck an amphibian is and how to do all that kind of shit. And we're apparently having a frog guy next week that I literally I know what a frog looks like. I know what it does. It jumps and you breed them and it metamorphosizes from one stage to another. And that's about it. Like, so it should be an interesting show for next week. Lucky for us, Terry today is, well, I think he's not a frog guy. So it should be a much more interesting show for me. But next week is all about Michael. Well,
this week.
Oh yeah, it's true. We're filming Wednesday.
For Wednesday. So if you're still listening, Wednesday there will be a show on Wednesday night, same time. So if you guys want to listen to that, you can. On the rest of my update, Black Milks, I've pre-paired them, and now they're just locked up. I've had them paired up the last couple of days, and they're just locked up now. So that's looking good. Got the Subox being paired up, so I'm cycling the male through the females because I kind of waited for the male to have his second shed. So at least now I'll probably pair them up for the next kind of month and a bit until they look like they're full of eggs. Kentucky Pines, I think, are probably gravid now, but I threw the male back in just to be safe. Bahama Boas are locked up again. So that's like their third time I've seen them locked, although they've been kind of cuddling with each other nonstop for the past 2 months. So it's kind of good to see them finally do their thing after having them for a couple years. Pac-Man frogs, I talked to Darren last weekend, and I'm kind of have a new game plan in my head. So I'm going to feed them up a bit and then dry them out for a few months. And then hopefully in the fall or late summer, I'll try to pair them up again and try to have a few thousand Pac-Mans to take care of and wholesale. Yeah, he told me the stories of, you have a rack of like 1,000 Pac-Man frog tadpoles. You're kind of up late feeding and cleaning. But hey,
that's the definition of wholesaling. Holy crap, man! I don't even know what you do with that.
Well, they will. Some of the tadpoles will eat each other apparently, so that'll help kind of bring some of the numbers down. But we'll see. But they are pretty they're fairly sellable once they kind of metamorphose out. Like you can deli cup them up, obviously, keep them on paper towel for a bit, grow them up for you could probably keep them for a couple weeks, feed them, make sure they're all doing good, and then you can start kind of wholesaling them, but just making sure they're feeding first. Because apparently it sounds like most of the ones that come over from Asia aren't even feeding yet. That's why they're terrible. Is because half the time they just metamorphose, put them in a cup, and ship them over here, kind of thing.
Yeah, I can just see you having all these shelves with all these deli cups, and when you got to feed them all crickets 1,000. Let's say you have 500.
I don't need to feed 500. Them
what do you feed them?
They'll eat tilapia.
Okay, fine.
You just
tilapia.
Feed them whitefish, and worms. You can find cheaper ways to feed them.
The fact of opening a container, feeding it, doing that, and then closing it and putting it back on the shelf, if that takes you 45 seconds and you have 500 to do, just the time consumption is insane. To me, that's just what goes through my head. It's when I have to feed 90 baby carpets or Morelia, whatever they are, that's a 2-3 hour just a feeding, because the time of bringing it down, opening the container, taking out an unthawed rat, shaking it, perfect. You close it, you put it back. Just that, it takes 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes per animal, right? You do that times 90, man. That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
500, 1,000 baby. Fuck that. I'm sorry, man. That would exceed all my patience. I wouldn't be.
I'm gonna try to let Tyrone let everybody know that they don't need to import anything for a while. But yeah, no, it should be. It'll be interesting. So yeah, I was I haven't. It's something new. Haven't given it a try, so might as well see how it is. Maybe eventually, if I don't hate my life too much, maybe I'll get a couple of the cooler morphs of them and try those as well. But for now, I'll try out the albinos and the chocolates and the normals and see kind of what happens. But yeah, no, the season's kind of looking good, but fingers won't count my eggs until the newts metamorphose fully and the eggs are laid and hatched. So for now, it's looking all right. Alrighty, Terry, how are you doing this good Sunday evening?
I'm doing pretty good, guys. Doing pretty good.
Awesome. Well, we're glad to have you on.
Very happy to have you on, Terry.
Yeah, I think Dom definitely wants to talk roughies with you, and I definitely want to talk Angolans and everything else you have going, because you keep some cool stuff from colubrids to colubroids to a few different python species, and you built your own reptile room and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I'm an open book. Say whatever you want to talk about. Tom,
I'd,
I guess you don't want to talk about my new dart frog obsession or like all of that.
I'll tell you what, we're going to skip all the amphibians. I'd love to know what you have, though. So if you tell me dart frog's cool, but let's not go too much into detail because we're doing a full frog show yesterday. Wednesday. So, I mean,
I'll just get. I don't have any dart frogs.
I've
been fascinated from afar, but maybe one of these days. But no, I don't have any amphibians.
I can appreciate the beauty, right? Like they're gorgeous. They're really cool. To me, if I had dart frogs, though, I think I'd probably have like a multi-species environment. I'd figure out what I can keep on the ground and what would live in the bush or whatever the branches on top. Like that's in my head, those are display animals. Like I would have some type of thing like that if that's what I did. But again, the crickets, the live bugs, no.
Yeah, the fruit flies. So what's funny is the Serpentarium in Bangkok, the Red Cross Serpentarium in Bangkok, a lot of their snake enclosures have dart frogs in them, and there'll be like multiple species of dart frogs and then just like horn snake, so it's not necessarily South America or Central America specific, but it is pretty cool. As much as I like snakes, I understand from like an observer's perspective, a lot of times they don't do anything, right? And so it is cool to have a snake in an enclosure, but then be able to see like some activity, on the frog aspect. So yeah, it's definitely been done, definitely can be done. I think those are really cool exhibits.
Yeah, for sure. The Vancouver Aquarium had one. They had the blue Aratus with I forget if it was a Colombian or Brazilian rainbow, but it was kind of neat. The rainbow is just like taken up most because it was like, I don't know, probably in like a 75-gallon tank kind of size. And then you just have the dart frogs like sometimes sitting on top of it.
Yeah.
No, that was pretty cool.
Man, the Nashville Zoo had a monkey, so waxy monkey frogs and tiger rat snake in the same enclosure, and I couldn't believe that. I was like, for real, And they says they put them together, like they put the frog in an enclosure inside the rat snake enclosure, and he said that he didn't even look at it, didn't even pay attention to it. So they put them together, and they said snake doesn't eat the frog. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
I love the idea of like the idea of having multi-species enclosure, though. Like if I had a display cage, like again, I don't know where you keep your animals. We'll get into that. Like for me, all my animals are in a snake room in my basement dedicated to that. Nobody walks in there except me. It's in a locked room. Like it's for me. Let's be honest. It's 100% for me. There is no such thing as a display cage that is there for beauty. Everything is for convenience and for everything the animal needs, right? Like if it's got perches, it's got hides, it's got like it just, I don't have all the pretty logs and I don't have the things that are visually pretty. But if I had one in my living room, that's what I'd do. Like I'd love to have waterfalls and rocks and all that kind of stuff. It's not convenient for cleaning. It's not convenient for the keeper. It's just for viewing purposes, right? But I feel like amphibians would really benefit from it, and that would be pretty cool.
Definitely. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. I loved Philippe de Vosgelie's. He did a talk for what was that thing they put on him and Alan? It's not IHS. But it's like similar. Oh, Herpeton. That they did where and Brian Cusco recorded like almost every talk, and Philippe did one of them, and his whole talk was on multi-species kind of keeping, where like you can keep. He was like New Caledonian geckos. You could keep like a Chihuahua with this kind of thing, or keep anoles with other stuff kind of thing, and that was like really neat to kind of hear from a guy like that.
I feel like he's been trying to get us into what he calls the third wave of herpetoculture for 40 years now. So, I subscribed to the Vivarium magazine, back in the 90s, and he was talking about the third wave of like the first wave of herpetoculture is just keeping stuff alive, right? And so that's kind of the Noah's Ark complex, where we've got a type specimen of this and a specimen of that, and maybe we just have one of different species, and then he called the second wave the captive breeding part, and then exploring the Morse is all part of that, but captive breeding, and then the third wave being this naturalistic Bavaria and studying the natural history and the plants and the fauna and the microhabitats, and just kind of like, where do they occupy this niche in nature, and then creating that niche in a box, right? And then putting the snakes in it, and then to your point, adding more and more species to that, I feel like is the third wave. But I feel like North American herpetoculture anyway hasn't gotten past the monetary benefit of captive breeding yet, you know, and because it's harder, I have found recently that it's a lot harder to manage and monitor breeding activity in a fully planted, you know, vivarium than it is in a smaller one where you got two animals, male and a female, and you know, it's mulch and a perch and no plants. It's a lot easier to monitor.
All right. It just complicates your life for no reason, right? Like the more stuff you have in the cage, the less you can see them, the harder it is usually for a male to track down a female and get her and blah, 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 right? It just, there's no like, I want to talk about roughies later, but I think my biggest problem with my roughies is I think my cages are too filled with branches and have too many perches and like I was told by somebody, like, just put it in a flat 4x2 with no perches, just a bull, a hide, and try that out instead. And don't get me wrong, it didn't work. But I was at a point where they're in a gorgeous cage with like tons of, like that cage has tons of all these real driftwoods everywhere that's tied to it. And they can literally, they spend their time only in the air. They never touch the ground. Yeah. And it's not working. They're not breeding. So somebody told me, he's like, honestly, the simplest way, like simple, plain, nothing, try it. I tried it out for 3 weeks. There's still nothing going on, but sometimes it makes you wonder, like, is too much sometimes a negative for breeding or not? And going back to your first wave, second wave, third wave, I find that a lot of people are now skipping the first wave. Like, I feel like a lot of people get in the hobby, and I look at, I don't know, I'm not going to assume your age. You can say it if you want after, but I had the first wave. Like, I remember in the 90s, like I had one of everything, and one of everything that made no sense at all. Like, I had one scrub python, and it was a throwaway pet. I bought it at Pet Expo for $75. I had one biac. I had one Savannah monitor. I had one water monitor. I had a bull snake. I had a carpet python. I had blah, blah, and I can keep going. And I had no pairs. I eventually got two ball pythons. I actually owned ball pythons in the 90s when there was only just the normal ball python. And the funniest thing is I've owned ball pythons for 9 years and I've never bred them. I never put my male and my female together because you didn't even think of breeding back then. It wasn't about that. It was just like, so I've moved to stage 2, but you're talking about stage 3. I don't know. I think it'd be cool to have one cage like that, but I don't know. To me, it's like, I love the breeding aspect. I love and I don't do it for monetary. I have a real job and it's not my income, but I like the idea of breeding to cover my costs for the year. Yeah. You know, that's the one thing. So if I get 40 babies, that will cover everything. There won't be any profit this year, but at least my hobby will be free.
Yeah. And there's no rule book, right? I mean, we're talking about snakes tonight, you know, we keep snakes in boxes. Like there's no right or wrong way to do it per se, right? So if people want to do it, you know, it's the whole tubs versus cages debate. It's the naturalistic versus not. It's the live versus the pre-thawed. Like there's no rule, right? It's just like whatever you want. And I feel like so I'm a what do you call it, administrator or admin or whatever for the Rhino Rat Snake group on Facebook, and oftentimes what's the minimum cage requirement, or what's the, you know, like how big of a cage do I need to put this in? And and people will be like, oh, it has to be at least 4 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot, or it's like, really, you should go bigger if you can. And I'm like, that's not what they're asking, right? Like, I've bred trios in a 18 by 18 by 24 Exoterra. You know what I mean? Now, do I want to keep doing that? No. But if somebody does that, I'm not going to tell them they're doing it wrong, because you can. And I know you can because I've done it. And so I wrote this big, long thing just because it was coming up over and over again. And really, just kind of what it came down to is everything that we do is going to fail nature, right? So like, if you're trying to replicate nature, then you failed, right? You've taken them out of the habitat. You don't have the lunar site. You don't have the stuff. Like, you can't do it. So I appreciate as much effort that goes into like replicating that, if that's your goal. But man, some people get real excited about things that I think just like calm down, man. Like if he wants to keep it a certain way, it's his snake, it's his thing. It's like that's what he gets into, And I'm sure it was a little bit more eloquently put than that. But yeah, I've really I just with the first wave, you have all these things. So my bedroom was a green iguana, a snow swift, which what's a snow swift? Like that, I don't know. It's some sort of fence lizard, I think, that was white, but it was sold to me as a snow swift. A green anole, a tokay gecko, a tiger salamander, and a California king snake. And you did it right if you put all of those in glass aquariums in one of those entertainment centers, with like a slot for the TV and a slot for the receiver and a slot for the VHS, tape player and everything. And so yeah, those are good times. We've come a long way, so to speak.
It's funny because you talk about aquariums. Like all my cages used to be aquariums, right? Because you'd be driving around and you'd see somebody throwing away their fish aquarium because it was cracked. You're like, sweet. Yes, and you always hope that it's the bottom that's cracked or a back window, so you can just put some kind of that plastic decor in the back. And you're like, all our cages were aquariums. And I had like some of the 100-gallon aquariums. Holy crap, man. They were like 300-400 pounds. You're 2-3 guys trying to get this down the stairs in your shitty apartment. Anyway, it was now you think about it, like I think of I went from aquariums to melamine to wooden hand-built aquariums with wooden and plexiglass to then eventually PVC. Like if you look at I feel like there's been an evolution, and now a lot of people I find Exoterra though aren't disappearing. A lot of people love those glass Exoterras, and they're gorgeous. They really have a nice layout.
They serve their purpose well for not only like dart frogs and stuff, but actually, honestly though, I see some people kind of realizing now that maybe some stuff is actually like not terrible to keep in a tank. Obviously, like using like a 125 or something is definitely annoying for the weight and size, but depending on the species, like even like smaller colubrids and smaller pythons, well, I'm not sure about pythons, but like pine snakes and stuff, keeping them in a fish tank or one of those glass terrariums that has like the screen is not like the worst thing, because then you got tons of ventilation and you can play with heat lamps and stuff, which we're now like some guys are finding out that heat lamps kind of give that better type of heating, although I know we've all been successful keeping with heat mats and heat tape and heat panels and that type of thing. So like it all kind of works, but then it's kind of fun seeing how like the hobby's almost kind of not like, obviously we're using lots of PVC and that's kind of where it's going, but as you get further into herpetoculture, you realize where you can kind of play with stuff. That's where I almost love the fish hobby, where the fish hobby, I know I can play with things and like, I can get away with this because I can just add an extra sponge to it, or I can just do more water changes. I feel like it's almost like that, where like you kind of get that good feel for keeping, and then you can kind of switch stuff up and know you can get away with certain things if you meet the criteria, kind of thing.
Heck yeah. So where do you want to go?
Well, how about we start with just the basic? I don't want to go through your whole history and all that, but
I remember that NPR episode from, what was it, 2013 or 2014?
45 minutes long, I think, was my
how'd you
get into reptiles.
I've listened to that one a few times.
I don't want to ask that question, but how about we start with purely the what do you keep real quickly, and then we'll go into like your setup. And by that, I don't mean like each cage specifically, just like, are you keeping in an upstairs apartment? Are you keeping your entire basement? Do you have shit outside, inside, all that? So kind of just that, and then that'll decide where the conversation goes, which I'll try to take it Python side, and then of course Michael will try to take it down the colubrid road. So we'll see who wins.
All right, so colubrids, I've got rhino rat snakes, Barron's racers, and then Boiga species. I've got the Boiga melanata, Cyanea, and Cynodon. And then pythons, I've got Sumatran shorttails, rough scale pythons, ball pythons, savu pythons, diamond pythons, I just gave my Angolan pythons to a friend of mine. So I think that's it. And then my annulated boa project, I sent those to a friend of mine that had more animals as well. So that's what we're working with now. So
nice. And the keeping, are you keeping all in one room?
Yeah.
Or are you keeping throughout the house? And what type of heating? Are you a mat guy? Are you a heat lamp guy? How do you do it?
Yeah, so when I bought this house, I built I call it a shed. I took shed plans and I expanded them. I should have taken house plans and shrunk them. It's a 500 square foot building, so it's 14 by 28, and it's 3 rooms. So the first room is 18 feet, so it's half of the building so it's 18 feet long by 14 feet. So it's not 28, it's 14 by 36. Sorry, it's 36 feet long, right? 500 square feet. And then the middle room is 14 by 10 feet. And then the last room is 14 by 8 feet. And the main room and the middle room are connected by a doorway. And then the small room, you have to go around. It's only accessed by itself. It's cordoned off. And that room has cross ventilation. It has windows on both sides of the room. So that, I can open the windows. They're all heated and cooled by a mini split system. And so there's air conditioning and heat to every single room. And then for how I keep stuff in the main room, everything, all the Barron's racers, rough-scale pythons, the Boiga melanata mangrove snakes, and the Savu pythons, all of those are in 4 foot by 2 foot by either 2 foot or 3 foot tall enclosures, the Reptile Basics enclosures. So I've got 3 rows of cages. The first 2 rows are the 4 by 2 by 2s, and then the top row is the 4 by 2 by 3. And then, so that's the main room. And then the smaller room, where it's primarily the ball pythons, which are in a rack, and then the Sumatrans I got in there, and then the rhino rat snakes I've got 3 5 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot enclosures that are stacked, and then some 2 foot cubes for some others. So that's rhino rat snakes. And then the other room is diamond pythons only, and they're in 4 by 2 by 2s for the adult breeders. And then my grow ups are in the Vision 222, which is 2.5. It's 28 inches by 24 by 24. And those are the grow ups there. So once those grow ups get bigger, I'm going to add probably at least 1, maybe I'll add 2 more 4 foot cages in there. Most everything, things in racks are heated with, heat tape. Everything in the top. So my rough scale pythons occupy the top row in the main room, and they have heat. And then the diamonds have heat and they have UV, and then everything else is ambient. So all the rhinos, all the Barron's racers, all the Boiga that are in cages. I have some Boiga in racks, but it's all ambient too.
Savus and bloods are ambients as well?
The Savus are, and which I'm not recommending you do that necessarily. I have them on the bottom cage, and I can't put the space in between cages is 2 inches or 2 or 3 inches, something like that. And so I can't put a heat lamp in there. And typically I have the Savus in racks, but for breeding, I threw them all together and want to see how that goes. I've done that before in Vision cages with a heat lamp. And I prefer it that way. I prefer it with a heat lamp so they can come and bask and then leave and do whatever. So we'll see kind of how it goes. So
for both your rooms, so I'm going to use your large room and your mini room. And those 2 rooms are completely separate from your diamond python room, right? Is what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. Is the airflow completely separate?
Yeah.
Okay. So what ambience are you putting in each of those rooms? Like, do you have like a, I don't know, 86 day, 84 night for your regular room, and I'm throwing out numbers. I'm just looking to see. I don't do ambient, so I actually don't know really what you should do, but I love the idea of ambient, like the idea of like the amount of money you must save having ambient, like to me, it feels a lot safer.
Mm-hmm. My ambient is probably around 80 to 84 in the day, and then it'll drop probably 74 at night. The building is foam insulated, so it's really efficient. And I have an ERV. I've got an energy recovery ventilator right in the main room, and so there is airflow, swapping out the clean air from the the outside from the inside. And then my diamond python room, I almost have the windows open year round in that. It's just in the winter, they might only be cracked a couple inches. And then like right now they're open all the way. And then in the summertime, when it starts to get hot in there, because I do have the lights in that room and that room is so small, it'll overheat really, really fast. And so I've got a box fan in the window, and it's on a Kaza timer, and I have it turn on in the afternoon to start blowing air out. So I've got a good, circulation of air in that room so it doesn't overheat. And then what I do also is I'll turn that fan off, and then around 4 a.m, I'll turn it back on. So from like 4 to 6, it runs again. It gets like that cold morning air in before the lights turn on. So they get a nighttime drop. So, and the diamond room has been, it was 49 degrees the other day in the diamond room. And the babies that are in there, they're on belly heat. So they're on heat 24/7, but they've got access to that heat.
Just so what end of the world are you in? I'm guessing you're in the States, right? Where in the States are you? Just so I can know, like, kind of.
Yeah, I'm in upstate South Carolina. So I'm in the southeast of the United States, about 3 hours from the coast.
I was gonna say, so do you have snow there or barely any?
Barely any. Like, it's an event if we have snow. We had snow this year, but it's an event when we do.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how south you are from us, so you don't have any real true cold winters.
It gets below freezing, but it doesn't stay below freezing for a long time. And
good enough that it helps you for breeding, though.
Right. Yeah. And I think what helps even more is just the rain. So our average rain we have, I think they said 7 days a month of rain. And it's funny because I came from West Texas, where we may go 10 months without rain. And then, and that's just kind of normal. You wouldn't even really call it a drought. Whereas here, I think we haven't had rain for 2 weeks, and it's a drought. There's a burn ban in effect. Like, it just feels really, really dry. Even though everything's still green, it just feels like, man, we haven't had rain in a while. So, but it rained last night, and it's going to rain, I think, tomorrow and next week a little bit. So that's really nice having the storms come through.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's why, like, guys also on like the West Coast too, like when you're on either coast and you get those like higher precipitation kind of events, like I guess even here in Alberta, like we get, like, it might not be, it's still snow that we're getting, but it's still a precipitation event. And especially like here, right, we got the Rockies, and then boom, we get all the wind and the pressure changes, even with the temperature changes. So that probably also kind of helps up. But yeah, no, living in Vancouver, you get the rain, and then all summer long your grass turns yellow because you're always, it seems like every summer now is a drought in Vancouver. So it's a rainforest, but not a rainforest in the summer anymore.
Yeah.
Nice. So let's go into, how about which species have you bred? Out of everything you keep, which ones have you bred?
All of them.
All of them? Okay. Yeah. So I will start with the obvious. Let's go with the roughies, because purely on a selfish reason, I want to figure out what I'm doing wrong, because I suck. I'm a terrible roughie breeder, and I can't get mine to breed. So I'd love for you to tell me how the heck you do it, what works for you, kind of the setup, and maybe go through it. Like, I assume that you're probably following the typical Python breeding plan, but you might do slightly different things for the roughies. Like, if you want to go into a bit of the details as to what works for you, because I know how to breed pythons, but for some reason I don't know how to breed roughies, man. It's just
Well, let me ask you, how many males do you have?
Only one.
I think that's the problem. So I got a pair in 2014 of adults, and I tried to breed them every single year, and nothing ever happened. I didn't produce roughies until 2019, 5 years later, with a different male. So I got a different male in 2016, I think, and that's the male that ended up breeding my female. And then the original male did end up siring a clutch, but it has never sired a clutch with the original female. And I believe that Nick has had a similar problem in which his male just didn't seem compatible with his female, and Owen sent him his male, and I think he had success. So I've heard this from more than one person, and it was definitely my experience that if you only have one male, that could be the problem. It could just be they're just not compatible. I said over and over again, I have the only pair of homosexual rough scale pythons that there are, and I was just frustrated and beat my head against, because their condition was fantastic. I could feel her follicles developing, like all that stuff, but I couldn't get anything to happen. I was getting people to send me their shed skins, all that kind of stuff. Didn't have anything. And then I had an opportunity to buy another pair, and I bought another pair, and that male seemed to get the other male kicked into gear. So.
And what did you do with the two males? Did you ever put them together with the females, or you simply swapped and using a different male? That was the difference.
I swapped, and I just saw that it was just compatible, right? Like I saw locks, and so I was like, oh, okay. This year I'm doing it a little bit differently, and we'll see if we have success. But typically, typical Python stuff, right? So feed heavily, and I mean heavily, in October. So I cycle feed my roughies. In October, I feed really heavy. If my female's hunting, she gets fed. Not big meals, and I'm typically a bigger meal kind of guy, but during October, they don't get big meals, but they get meals every single day that they're hunting. And that's October. Stop feeding, Halloween, start cooling down Thanksgiving, pair them at Christmas. Most of my locks I see are in March. I'll see locks throughout, but it seems like March is the heightened activity where I see a lot more of the locks. And then historically, eggs are laid in May and April and early June. And I don't separate the male until the female's basking inverted. Like once I see the female basking inverted, that's when I pull the male.
And do you start refeeding at some point? When do you start feeding the females?
Valentine's Day, right? So Valentine's Day, bring them up, bring the temperature. You start to bring the temperature back up, and then around end of February, beginning of March, I'll start feeding them. Typically, the male won't eat.
So you're basically describing the typical Morelia breeding, right? Which is exactly what I do. And are you a believer that you need to drop them pretty low for winter, or are you a believer that just a few degrees is good enough? Because they're a pretty equatorial species, right? Like when you look at where they come from in Australia, they're pretty far, like not equatorial, but you know what I mean? Like out of all Australian species, they're pretty damn high up. What is that? I guess they're high up north because they're on the other side of the equator.
Yeah, north of the Tropic of Capricorn. Yeah, it depends on what you say, a couple degrees. Personally, I think I keep all my stuff probably a lot colder than most people do, especially most Python people. I know that my room hits the 60s. My animals see 60s in the winter. Whether that has anything, to do with it, I don't know. But my room does get into the 60s. So my
in the 60s, like 68 or 62.
I'd say mid 60s.
Okay.
If it gets in, 62 seems pretty low. So I would say maybe 65 on a cold day, but not for an extended period because the lights are always on in the daytime. But definitely high 60s for sure.
Yeah. Like you're describing everything I do. Like I bring my room all the way down to 64 for all but 64 is my absolute lowest, and that's maybe for 2 weeks in the middle. And again, only nighttime, not daytime. And 64 is the lowest, but they're on the top cages. So I'm assuming the 64 is probably more 67 on the top ceiling, like the top cage, right? But I feel like I don't need to cool them off any more than that.
Yeah. I agree.
So, but the extra male thing is interesting. How about sexing them? Do you find there's any issues, or have you had any issues? Because I've heard from some people that they're very hard to sex and figure out, and I'm just curious to see if you have a different input on that one.
I haven't had any customers call me back and say that I missexed them. So I've popped babies, and it seemed pretty consistent. I always try to probe stuff before I sell it. And I haven't had an issue. You know, sometimes there'll be those in-betweeners where you just kind of hang on to them for a while and keep checking them just to see if you're getting, consistent. But I haven't had a problem. I haven't had anybody tell me I did it wrong, at least.
I'm just curious because like my male probes like 12, 14 scales down. My females are all 3. And I have a 1.2. So they probe like 3 or 4 scales. So to me, that's what I assume it is. But again, I can't confirm their sex until they actually produce something. So
you should throw a male carpet in with that male roughy and see if they combat a little bit.
Makes you wonder.
They won't. I don't think that they will. No. Carpets, roughies don't combat.
No?
They might.
Oh yeah, because John Weigel kept them all together, didn't they, or something?
Yeah, that's why I was wondering with your 2 males if you were putting the 2 males in with your females. Like I sometimes wonder if it would be better to have like a 2.2.
They're all related, so you might. Well,
they're all brothers and sisters forever. Like they're genetically all clones of each other.
So this year, what I did is the Ruffy cages. There's 4 4-foot cages, so they're 4 feet by 2 feet, but they're 3 feet tall. And when I built those cages, I didn't glue in the end pieces. So essentially, I can divide all those cages, or I can make it one 16-foot long cage. So I have 6 roughly. So I have 2.4 in that 16-foot long cage. So that's what I did this year, and we'll just see what happens.
And like you opened the entire 6 feet to the 2.4?
The entire 16 feet. It's 4 4-foot cages.
That's cool.
16 feet long.
That's cool.
And and there's 2 males in there and 4 females. And so, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But it's kind of been, I wanted to see, right? Like, are they going to move a lot? Are they going to favor one side? Are they, like, what's going to happen? It's just like, I don't know, what's going to happen? Is it going to be more successful? Is it going to be less successful? I don't know. But what's interesting, and I've seen locks on both sides of the 16 feet. So I've seen it on, the east side, and I've seen it on the west side. And so, just to see, is there a perch preference? Is there, is there a preference of any of the cages? And, I think that there is a hide box preference. I don't know. I think there's a hide box preference and a perch preference, but the perch preference is individualistic, I feel like.
And do you see any similarities as to like this male prefers this girl all the time, or these 2 always hang out together? Or are they all together, always bunched up in this one hide?
Most of the time they're bunched up. This is where it gets bad, is that I can't really tell my roughies apart. Okay. Like I know my original female and I know my original male. But all the rest are holdbacks, and I can tell that they're different. Right. But the male, I'm assuming this is the male based on his size, right? Because he's the smallest one out of all 6 of them. But the females in the middle, like the other 3 females, I couldn't say I could tell those apart. I know that there's 3 different ones in there, but I can't say like, this is Huey, Dewey, and Louie. It's just like I don't know.
That's
But
the same thing for me. It's size is the only way I can tell them apart. And there's one bigger female. The other two are the male and the other female are the same size. So I don't know who is who. I just put them all together in case I screw it up.
Yeah. And then I just was looking at my records when we got on here, because I'm like, when do I normally get eggs? Like, should I be putting egg boxes in and stuff like that? And I normally get eggs in April and May. So it's like right now. So I'll be putting some egg boxes in there and just kind of seeing if anybody starts utilizing them. But again, in March, I saw a lot of locks. In April, I saw some more locks. And so I'm curious now, because typically what I see when I'm pairing individual snakes is once the female is gravid and after she's ovulated, the male ignores the female. And I feel like I'm starting to see that, as they used to all be bunched up in this hide box. The males used to always be on top of the females in the trees or whatever. And I think now I'm seeing the males like off on their own. And that's really interesting. So we'll see if it was a failed experiment or not.
I think it'll go through. I feel like I guess with DOMs it's kind of hard to tell, but I think it's one of those things where you just kind of have to trust the process. And they're like, if they're gonna go without an extra male, like they'll probably go at some point, or maybe they need an extra year. But like yours in the 16-foot cage, like they're gonna, if they want to breed, they're going to find each other, kind of thing. Like in the wild, they're all spread out. So like even in a 16-foot cage, theoretically, that's not huge. For us, it's huge because
for us, but it's
stuff. But I think it's just for Dom's sake. I think it's just trusting the process, and maybe I don't know, hoping another year. But if it doesn't go next year, then maybe it is the male thing, or maybe they're just going to go later. Maybe they're going to start breeding in the next week, or they have been breeding and you're just going to get a random clutch here. Have you palpated her at all?
If you're talking to me, I have, and
nothing.
No, and they're all eating. The male's not eating. The two females are eating.
Well, that might be an okay sign.
Do you cycle feed at all?
I definitely do. Exactly the same. I stop in October and go all the way down temperature-wise, go all the way back up, and mid-February to maybe 1st of March, give or take, is when I start feeding in tiny meals. And now I'm at the point where I'm feeding them really heavy meals because I'm trying to see if it's enough to get them going. But now the problem is my girls are getting fat because I keep pumping them with food, hoping that it'll get them to go. But then I end up with a chubby snake. Now I'm at the point where I'm like, if they're not going to go now, I need to start cutting back and being really gentle. Because like my one girl she's big. Like she's a good 6 feet, and she's like not around as like a tennis ball, but she's almost there. Like she's got good size. She's got a big head. She's got a big body, and I want to get her to think it's prolific. There's a lot of food. It's time to breed. So I pump him around this time, and it's not working. So now I'm basically gonna, at the point where I decide, well, it's not working, I'm gonna stop feeding her. Probably our feed her like honestly like an adult mice or like a hopper rat every couple of weeks, and that's it, because she's getting plumpy. But the thing I do differently, so my cages are also attached like yours, but very differently. Like, so I have no cages attached side to side. Like everything is 4 feet wide max, but every cage, the top and the bottoms are attached with clean out drains. Yeah, exactly. So the cage sits on a clean out drain. Then I've got both the caps on the bottom and the top cage. But if I remove them both, then I can tie. So I can have an 8-foot cage by 4 feet high. But sorry, it would be 4 feet high now, but 8 foot of floor space. But every time I've tried that, and I've tried it so many times, I feel like it's hard for them to find that one like 4-inch hole. And the animals tend to either stay all in the top or all in the bottom. Or you'll have animals that just stay in both different and they never see each other. And to me, for breeding wise, I found that it was a negative thing. Too much space, not enough of an easy entry point. Like probably if I had like a, I don't know, 1 foot by 2 foot big square hole that opened the cages together, it would be more obvious. But I found it not to my advantage. The more space I gave them that way, because it was more vertical and don't get me wrong, they still move from cage to cage. I had less success opening up cages. So I found it easier again to and I feel terrible saying it, but plain simple, nothing in the cage during breeding. Like I remove everything. I remove the branches. I remove extra hide box. I find like plain Jane cages is the easiest way, and I see locks all the time that way.
Oh, so you're getting locks. It's just
not with the roughies.
Okay.
Everything else. No, my roughies literally they're just they're they might be homosexuals or lesbians. I don't know what it is, but there is no locking of any types. I'm not even getting anything at all. Like they cuddle.
Yeah.
But I've never seen.
I could see Michael, to your point, throwing a carpet python in there and seeing like what happens, right? Like, is it with a male, like not with a female, but with a male, and seeing like does that do anything, right? Or we've heard of putting a male in a pillowcase and driving him down a bumpy road and putting him back in, But I find that rough-scale pythons are really shy animals, and so I don't know that beating them up like that would be a good thing. But I can attest that for me, and I know for others as well, getting another male was the key to a lot of success. So
yeah, my fear would be I'd put a carpet python in there, and then next thing you know, I'd breed hybrids, and I would end up with these like half coastal, half, and then I'd have to kick my own ass,
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think that'll work for me. I can't do that one.
Yeah, I think Owen got 2 pairs, right? So now he probably has 3 with his whole backs, but I think he didn't go until he had the 2 pairs going, I think, too. So maybe that is because I guess that was always the thing with olive pythons, right? You always hear the stories of needing 2 male olive pythons to really get stuff going, kind of thing. So maybe there's something there. They are from the kind of a similar region as well, so you never know.
Yeah. And I'll just comment on the Cleoca Janes, which again, I love your name. Comment there. Do you keep them together? So for 2 years, I did keep them communally because I thought they were just gorgeous, and while growing them up, like none of them were sexually mature to the point. But then I stopped, and I stopped because I would feed the babies more often, and like the babies of just carpets and all that, right? Like you'd be feeding once a week, but I wouldn't feed anything else once a week. But then one day, one of the roughies grabbed the head of another one, and like just because I was feeding the babies just like 10 feet away, I ended up with a ball of roughies in my head, and I didn't have a sink or anything, and the only thing that came to mind is I have a big bucket of ethanol, so that I dip like all the sticks in and all my hemostats and everything. I literally took the heads of the snakes and I dipped it in the ethanol. Probably not the smartest thing I've ever done. After that, I was like freaking out, like, oh my God, what did I do? But all I was thinking is alcohol makes them stop. So anyway, I ended up dipping 2 snake heads in ethanol. It worked. They let go of each other right away. Then I rinsed them as best as I could. And, maybe they were slightly drunk after for a little bit, but they made it. So do I keep them communally? No. They have not been kept communally now for about 2 years. They are communal during the breeding season, right? Like right now they're separated because I fed yesterday. I got to repair them, but I separate everything for only feeding. So I'll separate for like 2 days, and now there's been no food in there. I should put them back together. I'm just lazy, and I'll get to it probably tomorrow.
Yeah, I found with boas too when I used to keep Bolivians that they would do the same thing kind of thing. You would have to keep them separate, or else they would wrap each other up, and then you just kind of Bill Stiegel talks about it with his chondros. You just instead of even doing anything, just walk out of the room, and they'll, as long as they're not actually cannibalistic animals, they'll figure it out and let go, kind of thing. But yeah, what did she say?
She was asking if maybe because they're together all the time, if it desensitizes them.
Yeah,
I guess
that's plausible.
Maybe, but you've got them separate year round. You're only putting them together into December to April ish, right? December to maybe I think you're doing all the right things. I wouldn't change anything. I would go buy another male.
I might just get another male. because I need more roughies.
I'm sure Don has a couple extra ones.
He sells his males cheap. The females are freaking expensive. I don't know if you know that. Like I see him sell males for, I'm not going to say the price, but pretty low. But the females are like you can't buy a female. Like it's like 4 times the price of a male.
Well, you need to buy a pair.
Usually people will let go of single males. That's usually the one that's pretty easy to get. So
yeah. I know one guy with an extra kind of older male, but it's been in a pet store, so I don't know if you'd actually want it, kind of thing, because it's been around other stuff. So I would probably try to wait for one from Don or somebody else that maybe has a couple animals that includes a roughie. But yeah,
I'll reach out to him. I'll see if he's got anything. I don't really know who else, except in Canada. I think he's one of the only ones that's had success breeding them, or is
I think he's the only one that's breeding them. That's for sure.
Yeah. I don't think anybody successfully bred them.
You were going to be like the next one, unless the guy in Calgary here that got a lens pair
produces slugs or nothing else. Yeah. So, yeah. Cool. Thanks for the advice, Terry. I appreciate it. As I said, like I'm proud of my failures, and this is definitely a big one. And someday I'll figure it out. I think the next male is probably the way to go. I mean, I'll give it a shot. Then it's my next failure to talk about will be diamonds. But before we go down the diamond route, I'll let Michael take us down the Collingwood Road for probably one thing there. So you pick the next subject.
Yeah. Well, maybe let's, where should we go? Maybe hit on the, how you're doing with the Boaga right now. Because we've had, we got hit on rhinos too, maybe, but we did have Rob Stone for half an episode talking about some rhino stuff, but like we always talk rhinos. They're fantastic animals too, but maybe change it up and do Boaga, which I don't think we've talked about on this podcast yet. But for Boaga, you're keeping the Cyanea, which you got from Schmitty, and then you have the dogtooth as well.
Yep.
And then
dogtooth cat snakes, and then mangrove snakes.
Nice. Are those the melanota, or are they the?
Yeah. Melanota. Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, no. Those are all pretty cool.
I've had a lot of fasciata as well, which is the Philippine mangrove snake. They don't get as big as melanota, but man, Boiga are something that I had been interested in for a really, really long time. Back in the kingsnake.com forum days, I remember, Bill Hughes, I still remember his screen name, man, Vegas Billy, and he was breeding mangrove snakes on a regular basis, and he had a post about dogtooth cat snakes, and he said something like, it's essentially a 8-foot long tame Amazon tree boa, and I was like, dude, that sounds awesome, and so like and then my wife and I were going to Italy in, I think, 2014. I think it was 2014. And we went to Italy, and I just happened to see that this guy, Giovanni, I think is his name, or Boiga. I think his screen name now is Boiga Giovanni or something like that. But he had just had like dogtooth cat snake eggs. And so I texted him on Messenger and just said, hey, I don't know where you live, but I'm going to be in Italy like next week. Are you like, could we come visit? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. Like he lived near Lake Como. We were flying into Milan. We flew into Milan. We went into Lake Como. We met him, saw his whole collection. It was the first time I ever got to interact with any Boiga species. And outside of the wild, I'd found brown tree snakes in Australia before, but it was a trip, man. It was so cool. I was so impressed with them. And then it was just like getting them. And I was interested at the time in, divergens, and it was just the blue mangrove snakes from Philippines, which was just always a pipe dream back then, and then dogtooth cat snakes. And I had gotten some dogtooth cat snakes from Joe Switalski that were imported in. They showed up basically dead on my doorstep. And then, so that like really turned me off to wild caught stuff. And dogtooth cat snakes are just pretty delicate in general. And so I was like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. And then Jordan Russell had some captive born babies. He was bringing over some captive born stuff from Europe pretty regularly. And so I got some from him, and it was awesome. And I just felt like I had to force feed them. And so I was feeding them rat tails, and I learned that you can't do that. I don't know if it's something with their esophagus or their lining or whatever, but you'll kill them by force feeding them. And I found that out the hard way. And Jordan was super gracious and sent me some more, and I raised them up for quite a while, and I just wasn't able to get them to live. They were perfectly healthy. It's just I wasn't, knowing what I know now, I just wasn't feeding them the right way. I wasn't feeding them the right stuff. But what I did find out at the time is I had gone out to my birdhouse to get some feathers. I was like, I want to scent these pinkies with some like bird feathers or bird down. And there were bird eggs in the birdhouse. And so I was like, I wonder if they'll eat them. And so I just took 2, right? There was like 5 in there. I took 2 eggs, and I went and I put them in the cage. And within 30 minutes, they went over, found them, and ate them. And I was like, this is crazy. So I went and got the other ones, and I put them in there. And so then I started building birdhouses. And I was putting birdhouses up in my backyard, and which will only take you so far, right? Because eventually they stop laying eggs. And so anyway, it was a learning experience, but I had failed, keeping those animals alive. And then I had the opportunity to buy Lata Fasciata, some adults, and I got those, and they blew me away. Like, I really, really loved the 2 individuals that I had, and at the time they were the oldest pair that Jordan had ever. I think at the time they were the oldest pair that had ever been brought into the United States, and I was real into my head about possibly being the first, person to breed them in North America. And is that a ferret? Like, a ferret has entered the kit. What is that thing?
Ferret? Come on. Look at this thing. A ferret? Really?
It does kind of look like a ferret.
I'm just saying, it was just kind of long.
You hear her talk?
Yeah,
she talks so much.
Yeah, right on. Anyway, so the guy that was selling the Lata Fasciata, he also had some Cyanea, the green cat snakes, and I wasn't interested in the green cat snakes at all. But I think he was moving or something, and I said, man, I'll take them. Sure, like whatever, I'll take them. And they showed up, and seeing them in person was completely different. They're just like every shade of green on this animal, and I really liked them a lot more than I thought I would. And if anybody asks me on what's like overall the best species of Boiga to keep that I have experience with anyway, I would say the Cyanea for sure. Just because they're pretty hardy. They eat rodents pretty regularly. They don't get too big. They don't try to kill you all the time like mangrove snakes do. And they don't get 11 feet long like dog-toothed cat snakes do, But so that was my introduction into those species. And then this guy out of California had some adult. It was supposed to be 2 females, dog-toothed cat snakes. And so I got those females, and dog-toothed cat snakes are not cannibalistic. So Cyanea and all the Dendrophila species, the mangrove snakes, they are cannibalistic. So I kept the 2 females together, and then in a big 4-foot vision cage. And I came in one day and they were locked up, and I was like, whoa, all right. So I've got a pair. So that was pretty cool. And then I bought another, what was supposed to be a male from a different individual, also an adult, and it came in, and it turned out to be a female. So just coincidentally, I ended up with a trio of really healthy adult captive born Cynodon, and they're my favorite Boiga. I love their personalities. I love their size. I love their colors. They're probably the most variable. You see all these videos, especially from that Dan's putting out, showing the leucistics and the different albinos and the Luzon phase and the There's the melanistic phase, and so there's a lot of variation within that species. So they're kind of my passion project, I'd say. So I really, really enjoy those. So in my room, the other side of the room, the 3-foot cages, there's 3 of them. So it's 12 feet long, and that's for where the dogtooth cat snakes.
So they're in 3 by 2 by 3, I'm assuming.
4 by 4 by 2 by 3. So they're 4 feet wide, and they're 3 feet tall, and there's 3 of them connected. So that it's a 9-foot. I'm sorry, it's a 12-foot long cage.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
and then how do you have those cages like set up in terms of like kind of what's going on and what you're trying to hit in terms of temperatures and that?
So I've got a bunch of perches, not like a bunch of perches, but I've got perches in all of it. You only do so much in 3 feet, you know. So I've got perches, and then I got so potting soil. So most of my stuff I keep on dirt. I keep it on potting soil, and then leaf litter on top of that. And I've got a monocera in one side, and then I've got some pothos and stuff. So there's plants in there, and they don't trample the plants. They're lightweight enough that they don't trample the plants. But man, it is awesome. My female is over 10 feet long, and to see her spread out, from one end to the other, because for the longest time I didn't have an enclosure long enough to do that, and I was keeping her in this 4-foot vision, and she could just wrap around the thing, almost twice. So it's really cool to see her out, and I can water her by hand. I have a squeeze bottle. I can water her by hand. She'll drink, and then I just feed them birds. I feed them chicks and quail and chicken eggs, and then sometimes in the breeding season, I'll chase like a small rat. Like I'll feed her a chick, and then as she's eating that, I'll feed her a small rat. I've seen other keepers feed them rats by like teasing them and get them to strike and stuff, but I don't do that to any of mine. I just put it up, and they smell it, and they eat it. And they do not like
that's
rats.
Pretty cool.
They don't like the smell of rats, I'll say. But doing that, that caboose training or whatever you want to call it, they don't have a problem with that at all. It's fine.
Okay. So, and I'm guessing when you feed chicks to like the adults, you're feeding like 5, 6, 7, maybe at times, right? Depending on what, or you're feeding a little less, but like weekly kind of thing, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, I'm guessing.
Yeah, they'll eat pretty frequently. So now that they used to be in my garage, and so it was just sort of like you got 2 minutes. Oh, I'll hop in here. It's like, oh, she's out. I'll start out some chicks, and then I can. So I used to feed her a lot more frequently. Now that they're in the backyard in a separate building, I don't feed them as frequently. But yeah, to your point, yeah, I'd feed them. Sometimes 1 chick, sometimes 3. And then I like to just keep chicken eggs in the cage, especially during breeding season, just so that there's always something there for her to eat if she wants to. But yeah, I've seen her eat 5 chicken eggs at one time, so, and then when you're keeping multiple snakes together, eggs are awesome, right? Because if they're going to eat an egg, they're not going to eat the same egg at the same time, so I like that as well, in which I can have eggs in there. So I have food in the enclosure with multiple snakes, and I'm not worried about them, eating each other by accident. So that's the dogtooth cat snakes. And then the mangrove snakes, I have them obviously separate, but also, just pretty simple: hide, perches, the potting soil for the substrate, and then they'll eat anything and everything. So typically I'm feeding them rodents, small rats, but I'll throw a chick in there sometimes. And then for my cyanea, I feed them chicks mostly, but they'll also eat mice. If I'm trying to give them more, then I'll feed them some mice as well. So mice and chicks for them.
Nice. Do you chase any frog legs or anything, or do you just try to keep it simple with the non-cold-blooded prey?
Yeah, I have done that before. I've fed them tilapia as well. I fed the baby dogtooth cat snakes. I've assist fed them pieces of hard-boiled egg even, and but I don't do that anymore. Not to say that I don't want to. I just I just don't go to the Asian grocery store to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, what is it? You go to the Asian grocery store and you get the mostly formed chick in the egg.
Oh, the balut. Yeah. That's it.
That'd be. I'm sure that would be a good one too.
You know what? I don't know if they. Well, maybe. Yeah, maybe they would eat it. Maybe they would eat it. Maybe they wouldn't. I don't know. I've eaten it before in the Philippines.
Oh, how was that?
It's nothing has tasted more like chicken soup in my whole life, right? I mean, it tastes like chicken soup, but like the little flipper, right? The little foot, it was developed enough that I could feel it get caught in my throat, and it was just like the point of no return. But so it's not a taste thing, but once you get out of your head that, I mean, we are all eating animals, right? It's just typically we don't eat animals whole, so eating an animal whole was kind of weird, but it tastes,
yeah, for sure.
But it's also one of those things of like, it's kind of like eating snake, right? Like I've had snake before. Nothing has ever tasted more like chicken than snake. And I just feel like, well, if it tastes like chicken, just give me chicken, right? And if it tastes like chicken soup, just give me chicken soup. We don't have to. We don't have to get crazy.
Not the extra limbs attached to it.
Exactly, feathers.
Do they actually cook it, or is it like cold?
What I had was warm. Yeah, what I had.
Okay, that's a little better. I was thinking you're eating like this, like kind of.
Oh, like a gazpacho.
Room temperature.
Yeah. In the Philippines, they'll like in certain areas, they'll have like people carrying around like buckets, and they'll just be like yelling out, just balut, balut, and then you go out there and you get them, crack it open. So it was warm. I remember it being warm. That also could have been room temperature, because room temperature was probably 90 or 95 degrees, but I remember it being warm.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, I remember that was a Destination Truth or whatever that had the when they did that. I remember vividly as a child watching that TV show.
If you're going to travel, man, it's one of those experiences I've always done. Like I've tried all the weird ass food, and sometimes it's like it feels wrong to take certain things, but if that's what they're eating there, like that's their normal. Like, why is eating a cow or eating a chicken any better than eating a dog or a balut or anything like that, right? Like it's just different prey source that we're not used to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, Terry, you've been to Australia too, and probably many other places around the world. Like Dom, did you guys try Vegemite or any other fun stuff in Australia?
I actually never tried it when I was in Australia. I should have.
You can get it now. Yeah, you go to Whole Foods, you can get it now. I remember I was at a guy's house that was he was from Kenya, and I said, "Hey, do you have any Vegemite? I hear about this Vegemite." And this was in Sydney, and he goes, "Yeah, we got some," but he didn't know how to eat it because he didn't eat it. And so I felt like my Americanness was coming out, because I was thinking that it was Nutella. I thought it was sweet. I didn't know it was savory, and it's not. Have you had it, Michael? Oh, you gotta try it.
No,
you gotta try it. But so they made it for me, and they're like, no, you put it on toast and you put some butter on, and then you just put like this slightest little bit of Vegemite on. And to me, as like I was like, no, man, I'm thinking peanut butter and jelly. I'm thinking, no, we can't do. So I was like lathering that stuff on, and it's yeast. I mean, it's like yeast extract. It's salty. If you like beer, people say it tastes like beer. It's not like delicious, but it's really rich in B vitamins, and it feels like a meal to me. So I acquired the taste. Yeah, I liked it. I get it now sometimes. You get it at World Market, you can have it. It's a little Vegemite and cheese on a piece of toast. That's pretty good. Yeah.
That actually sounds. I kind of want to try it now.
I'd try it. I don't see why not. Like
this sounds like something we should bring out at a reptile show during the wee hours of the morning. And like, okay, we all got to try this.
Yeah, it's not gross. It's not gross. It's salty and savory.
That's what I mean. It like sounds like actually like a good thing to eat while you're drinking or whatever you're doing when you're just hanging out. Like that kind of sounds like one of those kind of things. Could you eat it with a bit of meat on it too and stuff? Or
I wouldn't. That doesn't seem like that would be a good combo. But just like a piece of cheese and bread on toast. Like that's okay. That hits the spot.
Does sound good.
It's like it's like a breakfast thing.
So how about this? Have you ever had a poutine? Do you even know what a poutine is? Is there a poutine over there? Or poutine, I should say in English.
Poutine, yeah.
Oh,
The sausage, yeah. I've had that, yeah.
Well, wait, you said sausage?
Poutine? I think so.
Nope.
I think he's talking about. He's saying like poutine, like the cheese curds and gravy.
Cheese curds and gravy on fries.
Oh, I have not had that.
So do you see how like we all have our different things? Like to us, that's like the Quebec, Canada place where it really the birthplace of it, and it's freaking incredible. But you tell somebody like, would you eat fries with gravy and cheese curds? And they're like, what the heck is that? That sounds like the weirdest combo. So we all do our weird ass things in our country, right? And like to me, that's the best thing in the world. It's one of like my favorite things to eat. It's really bad for you, but it's delicious.
Oh yeah. Actually, I hope at Edmonton next weekend. Last fall they had a poutine truck, but like there was like 20 different like actual flavors. Like you could get like what is it? They had like from curry and butter chicken to like chipotle chicken and stuff like on the poutine. So like you get like there's like 30 other different whatever you could think of like it was on there. So it was actually like really good. But yeah, just basic poutine is good too.
The best gross thing that I had, and it's not gross like to think about it, was just octopus, but it was in Hanoi in Vietnam. Like all these like establishments would like noodle shops essentially would come out on those sidewalks at night, and you'd be sitting on these like plastic chairs that are really like built for kids, you know, but we were just all sitting on these chairs and tables, and they would come around with like this octopus that looked like it was roadkill, you know. I mean, it was dried like jerky. It looked like it'd been run over by a car. It smelled disgusting. I mean, it smelled like old octopus, you know, but you could tear it like jerky. And they had this red sauce that you would like dip in it and eat it. And it was so good. Like it tasted so good. And it was funny. You could sort of see like the travelers and stuff, like who had just arrived and who had been there a while. Because when the octopus lady came by, it was like, yo, like, come over here. Like, we want some of that. And the new people would be like, whoa, I'm not eating that. It's like, it is so good. Like you get past the smell, it is so good. So that's what I remember.
Was it just like extra smelly calamari or something like that, or was it like totally different than that?
I think it was octopus, but it could have been. Yeah. I mean, it could have been.
I'm just like comparing because I've eaten calamari, but that's obviously squid, not octopus. But is it kind of similar or no? Not at all.
I think so, except when I've had calamari, it was fried, and so this was dry. Yeah. So I guess if you had calamari jerky, like maybe that's, but calamari is kind of like a bland. I don't know.
Fried calamari is so good.
I remember this having a really, really nice taste. So anyway, but yeah, anybody that gets, try something new, people. Yeah.
And just to let everybody know, we're going to be starting a food podcast starting next week. It's going to be on seafood and other things you should not eat. It's going to be hosted by Michael and Michael only.
actually, one more to cap off. When I moved here to Southern Alberta, I guess they make the like you can make like Rice Krispie squares and stuff, right? Well, here they I guess they have these things called wheat puffs or something like that, or is that what they call? Yeah, but like it's like similar but like different, and I've never heard of it before in my life. And they're actually really good because they make them in like wheat puff squares that are like this big. I was like, wow, these things are actually really good. It's like a weird, bigger Rice Krispie kind of thing.
All right.
But yeah. Alrighty, I guess we should get back on track. Already, Dom, where do you want to take us now?
Well, the diamond pythons does interest me, but let's. We've heard a bit. Savus is not often talked about, so how about we go down the Savu line? How do you keep them? I've heard from most people usually tend to keep Savus in racks because of their smaller size, and they seem to do a lot better. I'm curious to see how you keep them. And you said ambient too, right? Like, I don't know. Tell me a bit about your Savu, what you do, and your success stories of how you've got them to breed.
Yeah. So my buddy had raised some up for a long time and hadn't had success breeding them in Arizona. So I asked if I could have a shot at it in Texas. So I got them, and I believe I did keep them in CB70 racks when I first got them. And I wouldn't say I did anything crazy, just same sort of deal, like, you know, the whole holiday schedule, and paired them up. And I got, there was a trio, and I really felt like both females had developed follicles, but only one went. And she was a captive born animal, and the other one was a wild caught imported animal. And that imported animal has never produced for me. She's got great body weight. She's got, like, everything's great, but I don't know if she's ever cycled. And then, but I had babies from those. I held back a lot of babies and grew them up. And then last year, I paired them. And what I would do is, when I had the most success, is I was putting them together, kind of all together, and on the floor of my snake room where it's cooler, with an overhead light, and they would bask all together on that light, and then just kind of move out. And that was pretty good. That worked really well. I've heard that cycle feeding is really important with them. And then last year, I didn't have a light on them, so they were kept at ambient, and I still had success. I had 2 clutches, and I incubated 1 clutch, and the other clutch I wanted to try maternal incubation, and it didn't go well. So I lost the maternal incubation clutch, and then the other clutch I had 2 hatch. I think there was 7 eggs and 2 hatched, and 2 more were fully developed but dead in the egg. So I have had my best success the first year breeding them, and then only worse success, not necessarily in getting clutches or not, but just in hatch rate, you know, in hatching them and stuff. And a lot of that, I think, is just, I don't give enough attention to the eggs. I think I'm sort of too comfortable setting it and forgetting it. And then by the time I check on them, it's, you know, oh man, like, we got mold over here, and we got to separate these ones, and or it's just too late, or it's too dry, or whatever. And so I don't necessarily think that the eggs are difficult to incubate. I just think they need a little bit more care than what I have been giving them.
And like, you just think with like lower, like maybe incubating them a little drier, or doing the Keith McPeak method with the holes in the side and taking off the tape or something might help, or temperature maybe, or
I don't know that the eggs are necessarily delicate like that.
Or I don't mean like delicate, but I mean more like maybe there's just a little tweak that needs to be done just to make them that much more hardier, kind of thing. I don't know. Or, well, not hardier, but that they maybe prefer instead of like the normal method, maybe.
I think you got to check them more than once every 2 weeks. Like, so I'll put eggs in the incubator and not check them for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, right? And then it's like, oh crap, they're desiccated or dried out, or, you know, something's wrong. And it's probably like Boiga eggs. Boiga eggs hatch in like 125 days for Melanata, 104 days is my average for Cynodon. And so I've kind of trained myself to like, hey, put this in the incubator and then forget about it, you know? And whereas that might work for them, and stuff like ball python eggs, like, it doesn't work for everything. And I've learned that the hard way, where sometimes just my day life, my family life and stuff has gotten busy, and I haven't given as much attention to that kind of stuff as I should. So that's the reality. So my hatch rate, I don't think, is anything like common with the species necessarily. I just think, I need to do better on incubating them this year.
Sorry, go ahead. No, keep going. Finish your thought.
I was just going to say, this year with these new cages, I tried a similar thing. So it's 2 4-foots together. So they got an 8-foot long cage, and there's 2.3 in, that's not right. It's 2.5. There's 2.5 in the cage. So we'll see kind of what comes of that. But it's really, the problem with that is I know that I haven't been feeding as much, because in order to feed them, I have to pull them all out and I have to separate them. And I just haven't done that. And they're always hiding together. And so it's sort of that like out of sight, out of mind scenario. So I won't be surprised if I'm not successful this year, just based on that alone. But we'll see. What were you gonna say?
I was actually going to ask you in regards to your maternal incubation. So I've had multiple clutches. I still have yet to ever try maternal incubation. I had promised that I would try it this year with my pygmies, and they didn't lay any eggs for the first time in 4 years. So if I'm not getting pygmy eggs, I'm not getting any maternal incubation. So I'm just curious to see, and not to point out your failure. Yeah. Do you mind going into details of what you tried and why it didn't work? I'm just curious because it's something that has always, I'll be honest, scared me to do maternal incubation. I just kind of like you, I do artificial and I'm set it, forget it. And I've had so many clutches that I don't worry about it. Like today I found 5 rotten eggs and I kind of was shooting myself for it because I was looking, I'm like, oh, it's been 25 days and I haven't opened the incubator door. Right. And I was like, oh, it's time to open and vent. But at the start, it really makes no difference. You don't need to vent the boxes. You don't need to worry about it. And I have a glass door and I can flashlight and I can look at the eggs. They all looked fine. Turns out 5 of the eggs were filled with white mold and it looked the same through the condense box, like the condensation on. I couldn't tell. And I was like, oh, fuck. Like I kind of screwed up there. Maybe I should have done it earlier. Maybe I would have noticed earlier if I would have opened it once a week, which is what I used to do. Now I'm just like, if it goes bad, it goes bad. But so I'm just curious as for maternal incubation.
Terry has been successful too in the past with maternal and other stuff, right? So it'd be cool to see what kind of what the differences you think are.
Yeah, so I've done maternal incubation with diamond pythons, Angolan pythons, ball pythons, and rough scale pythons. And I wasn't successful last year when I did it with rough scale pythons, really just because of the environment, right? So the female did awesome. It was really, really fun to watch her. And she'd come off every day and she'd bask and then she'd go back. But just, I could have done a lot better with the setup, with the egg box and that sort of thing. Diamond pythons have been really successful. I was only unsuccessful 1 year. Angolan pythons, I've been successful. What's funny is I had Angolan pythons, I had 2 clutches hatch on the same, or lay on the same exact day. And I did artificial incubation for one and maternal incubation on the other. And they all hatched on the same day. So that was really cool. And then the ball python clutch, I did those as well. And those eggs looked awful. Like they looked so bad, just dried out, like they looked like, not that they weren't going to hatch, but they just looked rough. And every single one of them hatched. And so I have had success. Sabu pythons, I think I was asking the NPR chat last year if anybody had done it, and I apologize to the people that have done it, but they have done it. Either 1 or 2 people have done it. But my setup wasn't conducive for it. It was dumb to even try it because she had laid the eggs underneath a hide box. So it wasn't in an enclosed sort of lay box or anything. And there was moss there and there was mulch, but she also didn't like beehive wrap them. You know how like carpet pythons and other pythons, they'll wrap them. They're fully encasing those eggs. She was just sort of laying on top of them. And so it just didn't go well. And by the time I was like, and sometimes I get in this mindset of like, hey, it's either going to work or it's not going to work. Kind of like with the rough scale python. With the rough scale python, I was like, hey, this is going to work or all the eggs are going to go bad. But we're going to learn something like throughout the process. And we got to the end of the process and all the eggs went bad, right? And the babies were, fully formed and dead in the egg. And that's kind of what happened with the Sabu pythons too, just on a much faster timeline. So I would not necessarily recommend it with Liasis. I don't think like water pythons and Sabu pythons and that sort of thing. Like I don't know that they're good mothers, so to speak. I don't know that they're good. I think I've heard that water pythons,
ditch
lay
the eggs
in burrows
too.
and then ditch them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be my biggest worry with Liasis is they're known for, from what I can tell, the natural history says that sometimes they'll leave in the last few weeks of incubation, right? If it's close enough, temperatures seem right, they'll just ditch the eggs and hope that they survive. So just that fact to me tells me that that would not work well for the natural captivity.
Yeah.
But maybe if you're in a place with more ambient, like a high enough ambient, it might be okay. But then, who wants to keep their reptile room at 88 degrees or what, or 89 degrees, right? Like that's gonna be a little toasty in there. I wonder if anybody's done olives though. That's one I haven't really heard of. Like I don't think I've heard Macklots or waters. Maybe Actually, somebody's probably done Macklots. I think, but I haven't heard of anybody doing olives. But I'm sure there's probably has been.
Yeah, I love watching it. I love seeing the behavior. But it is a kick in the nuts, when you're throwing eggs away and you're cutting dead babies open. So I recommend it for people that can afford it, like if they're curious about it, but I would never grandstand and say that people need to do it or that it's, better or worse than artificial incubation,
Yeah, for sure. I think it sounds like if you were going to try it first, I'd probably try it with a carpet or a breadlie or something.
Stimson's pythons were the first one. I forgot. I don't have Stimson's anymore, but Stimson's were the first ones that I did it with. And it was, and that was they're fantastic, at it, so that was really, really cool. But what's cool, like you could pick the whole female and egg clutch up in one hand, I'm sure the pygmies are even smaller, so but that's super cool.
Yeah, I've got tons of pictures of exactly that. And I've always joked around that I'm going to do it with the pygmies. And for me, the reason is I've had like 4 years, 1 or 2 clutches a year. And eventually it's like, I'm not worried about if ever it doesn't work. I'm like, well, I lose the clutch, right? It's not the end of the world. So I wanted to try it. And of course, this year is the first year I'm not going to have any, which it blows my mind because both my girls always lay every year and they've laid both of them the past 3 years in a row. So I don't know what
Maybe
I did
it's
wrong.
their time for a year off, and then they're going to go another 3-4 years in a row. Probably,
yeah, which I'm fine with it if they both decided. But it's just the year I said I'm doing it no matter what, and
of course.
And sometimes if you plan for maternal incubation, you'll get a girl that like wraps only half the eggs. Like one of the girls that laid this year had 6 eggs under her and about 7 on her left side. Like completely unwrapped just on the side. And you're like, are they all bad? Does she know something I don't know? But you candle them, they're red, they've got veins, and I don't know. So, but she would have made a terrible mother. Like, what do? Do you like unwrap her, put all the eggs together and hope she recoils everything?
Well, and sometimes I wonder if they do that if they don't have enough space, like, is that just like where they were laid, or does she know? I've heard people talk about, and I've seen where they'll kick out infertile eggs, but I've also seen fertile eggs being laid outside of the, not being in the coil. And I wonder if she knows that she doesn't have enough room for them. And so she just sacrifices those for the good of the rest of the clutch, curious.
Yeah, that would make sense because they probably know that, like, okay, so like I can only do this much, or and then the rest kind of thing. Or maybe they are just a bad mother and it's what it is. But then you gotta. It'd be fun. Like I guess guys like Lucas did that whole breadlie stuff. I guess maybe we'll have to bring him back on to talk about more of that stuff because I don't remember him actually really talking about what happened with all that information he did when he was trying to collect all the egg. Maybe he did, and I just forget because
you're talking about the
so many pot.
Maternal,
well, yeah, like when he had Nick doing it too, and then he did it, and I'm sure he maybe gave them to some other people too. I'm not sure if he bailed on that and did something else because I think he ended up doing his thesis on the Blackhead book or something, but I forget. Yeah, no.
He talked about it a bit, and I think his information was more that either there was no difference between artificial and maternal, or that it was actually like, I don't know. I think it was negligible,
Yeah.
and he didn't really have enough information. But
I'm just curious on like if that messed up. I mean, in terms of like taking half the eggs and the females, like, did they all just wrap them back up and do good, or did some females decide to like, oh no, I can't possibly take care of these
But
anymore?
the mother's
I-
instinct is so strong. I really don't think
Yeah.
I bet you, like, think about when you pull an egg clutch from them, they're just ready to call back up. Like, you could take half the clutch, put them back in. I can almost guarantee that female would be wrapped back within 30 seconds. Like, they're so, like, I don't know, that
Yeah.
maternal instinct is extremely high that I don't think removing half the clutch would even bother the female whatsoever.
Yeah, I've done that before with Angolans, where I took some and left her with some more. So it wasn't quite half the clutch, but it was like a third of the clutch. I incubated artificially, and then and she kept the others, and yeah, she did fine, and they both went full term, and you would think that the maternal clutch would hatch later because it's way cooler. I mean, they experience much cooler temperatures, but they hatched on the same exact day. It's kind of weird, man. I had a rhino rat snake clutch too, where I collected the eggs from the lay box and then I incubated them. And then by the time they were hatching, I thought, man, I haven't seen that female in quite a while because she's always in the lay box. And I opened up the lay box to see her because I just never took the lay box out. It's just a 6-quart with sphagnum moss in it, And there was a brand new, freshly hatched baby rhino rat snake right on top. And I was like, wait a minute. And I dig through the moss and there was an egg that I missed. And so there was an egg in there that was incubating in the snake room at the same time as the clutch that was in the incubator, and they hatched on the same exact day.
And the mom was showing some maternal instinct still.
I don't
like, maybe not necessarily incubating it, but maybe like kind of.
Yeah,
because we know like rattlesnakes will actually kind of take care of their babies like in groups kind of thing, which is kind of neat, right? Like, because people think of them as, oh, they don't care, but when they actually do care, like even with the African rock females in South Africa or whatever, they'll kind of have they'll protect the babies up to a certain stage.
I don't know if I'm going to call it maternal instincts, but yeah, it does almost seem like when you're pulling rhino rat snake eggs, it does almost seem like they're guarding them, or almost, like it's not necessarily like they lay them and then they take off, but it's almost like I don't want to say they wrap them, because sometimes they'll glue them to the wall or glue them to somewhere, or stack them somewhere weird, but they do kind of stick around. I don't know. I've never left the eggs with them, obviously, not on purpose. So I'm not sure, but and then
it's all neat to, like, that's why we kind of do this, right? Is to kind of have a like, not that it is nature, but like kind of see how stuff works, right? Like, I think we all kind of have that mindset of wanting to see how things work, and then when new stuff comes up, it makes it kind of that much cooler than just keeping a snake in a box kind of thing.
I think it scratches kind of a primitive, like, for me, like, it's farming, to an extent. So like, I just love seeing life multiply life. And it doesn't have to just be snakes. Like, I started breeding African softwood rats, and I really got into it. The honeymoon is over now, but I really got into it at the beginning because it's so like, the reward is so fast, right? It's like every month you got babies. You don't have to wait a whole year to get babies. It's like, oh, like, I got babies this month, and I got babies next month, and I got and so like it was like instant gratification almost. And I got psyched over like dubia roaches. I was keeping dubia roaches too when I had morning geckos, which is silly because morning geckos can only eat the nymphs of the dubia roach. An adult dubia roach is bigger than an adult morning gecko. And so I was breeding these dubia roaches, and just basically for fun. And it was just cool to, like, every time you go out there, there's more than the last time you went out there, So must be some sort of farming instinct or something in my ancestry that I'm trying to scratch.
I start with all the newts and stuff. I got, what is it, grindle worm colonies kind of starting, which are like little white worms.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I got a little basin full of black worms going. So you keep them with a little bit of gravel, and you have to like crunch the gravel up every few days to like basically cut the worms in half, and that's how they kind of multiply.
Wow.
Throw in some fish food that they eat, but yeah, no, it's. I guess we'll see. I don't know how long I'm going to do this before I actually like go through and see how many blackworms are in there, because I've only started with a few, so that's kind of neat. But then yeah, like hatching the baby brine every day for the newts, like it's kind of fun. Like, and it keeps like a nice routine where it's like, okay, every day I come home from work, I'm going to do this and check on everything, and it makes like a nice routine out of it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I really enjoyed breeding rats. I did it for a little while. Like I hated the whole cleaning and the whole smell thing, but near the end when I decided I had enough, I only kept one cage, and I had like that gigantic ferret cage with multiple levels and all that, like Ferret Nation or something like that. Like it's probably like 4 feet high, 2x2 cube, and I kept a 1.4 or 1.5 in there. So one male and 4 or 5 females, and like it was crazy the amount of time you had to clean it every day because it smelled like disgusting. But the amount of babies that would keep coming out and like the different genetics in them was so fun. And like you're talking about instant gratification, right? Like you can get a female pregnant like every 28 days or something ridiculous like that. Like it was insane. But the amount of babies that just those produced, it was pretty fun. I loved the idea of having live for whenever you needed them for newborn neonates. But honestly, man, like I don't know how people breed rats. Like it is so much work. Yeah. It is so much time. It is so smelly. It's just I don't know, man. It takes it's tough. That's why often like the idea of keeping different animals, and for me, if I was to diversify outside of snakes, I probably would go down the monitor route because it's always been the reptiles that interest me the most outside of that. But like I look at what I should be feeding them, and I'm like, I can't. I like the idea of breeding dubia roaches or Madagascan hissing cockroaches or cave cockroaches or any of those staple food source. Like the idea that I would have to do that, I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't interest me, and I don't want to breed crickets or cockroaches.
You need to do the Borneo earless monitors. They just eat earthworms.
But then you have to breed earthworms, right?
Well, those are easy though. You just set up one of those like worm compost bin things, and you just use your coffee grounds and kitchen scraps, and you're good to go.
Yeah, but
like set it up a little beforehand, and you start your.
But I don't want to keep worms. Like I'm not a worm breeder. I don't want to be a worm breeder.
Exactly.
Basement.
Exactly.
You can go in the snake room.
Man,
the snake room.
When I was in high school and college, I had 2 Burmese pythons, and I felt like we were rabbit breeders and chicken breeders that had a couple snakes. You know, it was like we bred a whole bunch of food for these 2 animals. You know. And it was just kind of crazy. We were rabbit breeders that kept snakes. We weren't snake breeders that bred rabbits. But with the kind of not instant gratification, but the cool thing about the Boiga species is that they multi-clutch. And so like the Cyanea typically will double clutch all the time. The Melanata have always double clutched for me, but the Cynodon will do even more than that. Like I have gotten 5 clutches from one pairing, not in 1 year, but it seems like every 4 months, like my female would lay again. And I wasn't trying to breed her, but like she just kept laying, and I was like, oh my goodness, you know. And that was pretty wild. But typically right around the time I'm about to pull, like eggs start hatching, is she laid another clutch to go into the incubator. And
I've always been fascinated with the fact that many colubrids can double clutch. I think it's just amazing. It's such a cool adaptation that I often wonder why we don't have that in Python or boas, because I don't know of anybody with Python or boas that have ever double clutched or had 2 clutches in a year span. Like sometimes somebody will have it and then they'll have it as like they tried to hurry up the next season and get it 10 months after, or things like that. But it's just an adaptation that I don't know of. I don't know. Is there any recorded cases of something double clutching that it's a Python or a boa? And I'm saying clutch for boas, but you know what I mean, double litter.
Yeah, not that I know of.
Like it's such a bizarre thing that it's an adaptation that has never happened. Because when you're breeding a python, it's once a year and you're hoping it goes through. It doesn't work. You're not getting a clutch for at least 2 years, you know, and that sucks. Like, and you think of colubrids, like, man, I can't even imagine a girl laying eggs every 4 months, or lizard people, geckos that they lay an egg every month or 2 eggs every month. They're continuous, or monitors that can have clutches every 3 months. Like it's it's definitely the long game with pythons and boas.
Yeah, but if you think of natural history, I guess if I think about it, I mean, boas obviously they're taxed so much, right? Because their eggs, so to speak, are developing internally, and then pythons is similar but just external. If they're maternally incubating, you know, then their metabolic output is sort of similar in that they don't have time. Whereas with colubrids, as soon as they lay their eggs, you know, they're peacing out, you know, like let's go start eating again. Yeah, Barron's racers, I've been Barron's racers double clutch as well, but nothing like I have to try to get the Barron's racers double clutch. I feel like the Boiga, they're just going to do it. Just be ready.
Oh yeah, I remember Smitty with the Cyanea, just like they laid again.
Yeah.
Like I feel like any of those species that are like more prey species than anything, like the smaller pythons or boas, should double clutch, because like when you're talking about like an evolutionary advantage, it would be exactly that. Like produce as many babies as you can, as often as you can, because everything feeds everything, and then that's the way to reproduce. Like just like the same reason that, you know, when you say they fuck like bunnies, there's a reason you say that, because they need to keep producing, because they're being eaten by everything. So I feel like if you were to talk about a Stimson's python, a spotted, a children's, a pygmy, any of those, they're food for everything else. They're so small, right? So I feel like double clutching would have had an advantage where, I don't know, but it's obviously not like that. With colubrids, is it more the smaller species, or like the 8 to 10 foot colubrids? Do they double clutch too?
Well,
like you were talking about earlier.
I would like hognose definitely double. Like I guess colubroids. If you want to talk about like colubroids, they definitely, like the false waters, the barons. I'm not sure about Musarana, maybe, but like hognose snakes, they double clutch.
Tricolor, right? Tricolors especially.
Oh yeah, they don't stop breeding. They only live like 5 years, and they just breed nonstop, basically.
Yeah. But to your point, Dom, I think you're right on. I think that's why you see it a lot more in lizards, right? Is they just keep on going because they're getting eaten by everything. You know, they're kind of the bottom of the totem pole until they get bigger. You know.
Yeah. But I guess that's why, like, other pythons take multiple years in between clutches, while, like, Antaresia and I guess, like, I have sand boas, and they seem to want to go every year. But I give them some breaks. But, like, if I probably could breed her every year as long as I feed her up after she has babies. Like, they feed up within, like, 3 months. She's back up to weight, and she's ready to breed again in the spring kind of thing, and ready to go again the next year. But then, like, right, they feel that they're, like, kind of a similar niche to the Antaresia, right? Like Kenyan sand boas aren't huge.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Mike, you got a last subject you want to hit up on, or where do you want to go down? Or how about Terry? Is there, out of all the snake species you keep, which one do you want to talk about? If we probably have time to talk about one more.
I mean, we hit I'm really glad Boiga's getting represented. I really like those. And I feel like Rhino's kind of been talked to death. I'd hate to follow Rob Stone. He's I mean, if you talk to Rob, you don't need to.
Although you've done some cool, you do your part in Rhinos as well, though, keeping them well and kind of producing a bunch more out there, right? Like you just sent some to BC, right?
Yes. Yep. I do want to give out a public service announcement, and that is that Sumatran short-tail pythons are amazing snakes. They are amazing pet snakes. They are maybe the perfect big snake, because I kept Burmese pythons, right? And I love Burmese. I could make an argument on how Burmese pythons are both the best pet snake. it's just they have a problem of killing people, right? But like I loved Burmese pythons, and thought they could be so tame, and just like the weight is like I go on and on about it. But then Sumatran pythons give me a little like hint of that, like a little like the weight of that, but in a smaller package. And I don't know why, but man, I can't sell a Sumatran python to save my life, dude. And
what do you have, the black
I breed,
variety or the orange heads?
So I have the orange heads, and I breed the albinos. So I produce hets and caramels when I breed them, and man, some of the hets, like, they're phenomenal. Like, they look awesome. And it was funny. I'm friends with some local ball python breeders, and we're in this group chat, and they threw in this like morphed out like ball python, and I was like, bro, that's a normal Sumatran. Like, it looks like a normal Sumatran short-tailed python. But my Sumatran python is going to get better with age. It's not going to brown out. It's not going to cost a lot of money. You know what I mean? It's like, it's going to eat every time you feed it, you know? And I was like, you just created a Sumatran looking ball python. Is all you created, you know? And kind of giving a hard time about that. But I feel, I don't know why they're not more popular. And all I can think of is that the morphs that are now coming out, or not now, but the morph kind of evolution with the Borneos and stuff, with the like Goldeneye and the Batik and the Matrix, and now the Piebald and stuff. All I can think of is that is taking away kind of the spotlight from the Sumatrans. But the other thing I really like about the Sumatrans is they're tame. Like, I'll take my adult females and I'll hand them to a 4-year-old, and I can trust them that they're not gonna bite them. You know, like, I just really, really like those snakes. So they're cool snakes, super easy to take care of. They drink a lot, but they poop a lot when they poop, but they don't poop that often. It's like they hold on to it for a long time, and then they let it all out. They do pee a lot though. And yeah, man, they're just cool. Like, I really, really like those snakes, and I'm frustrated that more people don't know. Some people will contact me and ask me for ball pythons, and they'll say, yeah, this is just going to be a pet. And I'll tell them about Sumatra pythons. I'll say, hey, that's awesome. I think it's cool that you're getting a pet snake, but do you know about this other species that's like maybe going to fit your needs a little bit more better, you know? And anyway, so I hope that's what I'd like to say. Sumatrans are awesome.
Yeah. Actually, I was talking to him last weekend. He breeds Sumatrans up here. Like, I think he just posted a clutch of caramel albinos. What is it? It's Dan from Big D Exotics. So Dan, I can't pronounce his last name. It's another Eastern European last name that you're like, how do I pronounce it? But yeah, no, he's a old school herper guy that he does a lot of bloods. He actually has pieds up here. So he produced a bunch of het pieds the last couple of years. He does some higher end Imperator stuff and ball pythons. But yeah, no, he keeps those guys, and it's like always tempting to see those, because I don't even want the caramels. I just want like I wouldn't mind a pair of just orange heads, just normal orange head Sumatrans. It's kind of what I like. Although I know Ty does, my buddy Ty does his blood python stuff, so he has a bunch of blood pythons at the shop, and sometimes I'll help him kind of water and clean stuff. And you got the angry baby blood pythons where you can pick them up a couple times, and then like the third time you're picking them up, they go to get you, kind of thing. And I now, after working with him, you can see the twitchy eye thing kind of going on where they're thinking. So you're like, I don't really want to stick my hands in the adult tubs.
Oh no, you would never want to get hit by an adult, no, definitely. But and I can't speak to the bloods just because I've never kept them. But man, my Sumatrans have all been great. My son, actually, I was sexing him, the babies, and I had my son, who's 6, help me, and you know, the babies don't love being sexed. They don't love that at all. And but they were doing all right. And my son doesn't quite he doesn't quite pick up on the body language of snakes before he's about to get bit, and he did get about the third one. It bit him, but it was just a bite and let go, and he was fine. And then I said, let's try to tube him now, and so we would tube him, and then he would hold him, and then I would sex him. But yeah, but that's just, I mean, that's like as intrusive as you can get, to get him to do that. And but yeah, I've just found them to be a cool, a really cool species, really nice to work with, easy to work with, and yeah, it's pretty rewarding.
Yeah, for sure. Although I've seen some people like, oh look, this is a Borneo, and you're like, you look at it, you're like, no, that's an orange-head Sumatran. Just by like, I remember how I think Matt described how they were, and it was like, yeah, that's not a Borneo. But yeah, no, they're cool. I definitely think they're underrated. I guess before Dom kind of carries it on, how do you have them set up? Do you keep them in a rack, or do you try to keep them in cages, or what are you trying to do there?
So I have the babies and the grown-ups in a rack. Right now I have the adults in a rack, like a CB70, but I don't, and that's just because I'm kind of moving that project out. I don't like keeping the adults in a rack unless you've got some size, like some height to the rack, because when they coil a rack, like if I open the CB70 and they coil it, when the rack is open, I can't close the rack because they're too big, right? They throw a coil around a rat or something, and the tub isn't tall enough for me to push it back in. So I think like a like a 12 or 18-inch enclosure or something, I think would be really, really nice, and for them. So that's how I've bred them in the past, like a 4 foot by 12 foot, just PVC cage, and belly heat, and that was the last clutch that I had, which was last year. She had such a good wrap on them that it really made me want to try to do maternal with them, just because I was like, ooh, she's got a really good wrap. That'd be cool to see just another species, do that.
Yeah, no, they're cool. Yeah, I think my buddy Paul. He had the blacks too. I think he sold those to Mickey. Actually, he traded those to Mickey for blackheads, I think. But yeah, no, they're around up here for sure. The blood python markets, like, there's a bunch of guys actually breeding them up here. So it's kind of weird because, like, I don't think the market's that big, but they seem to move okay. Probably because of maybe ball python people, but I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, maybe it is gonna turn into Morelia where they do end up exporting a bunch. I'm not sure. I'm not really into it, but there's definitely guys working with them up here too, and they're definitely cool to see. Yeah,
right on.
Already, Dominic.
Well, I just want to put my opinion on the blood python there before. So the Sumatrans, in my opinion, they're gorgeous, beautiful animals. I will never, ever keep any, but they're beautiful. And my reason is that every time I've tried animals that are ground dwellers, I lose interest so freaking fast. And that's something I've learned about myself. So like I've kept Angolans for multiple years. I've bred them and had a lot of success. And you know what? In the end, I didn't like them because I found them to be more terrestrial animal than anything. And they made me think of a ball python, which made me like them even less. But if I look at bloods or Sumatrans or Borneos or anything like that, I love their colors. I love their looks. I love the idea of a heavy snake with that short, like the stubby, really like the tail that goes too small, way too fast, right? I like the look, but I already know that the fact that if I hold them, like, you can hold any arboreal species just by the last 4 inches of its tail, and you've got 6 foot hanging on you, and it's not falling off, right? With a big Sumatran, you'd probably be like 2 hands, 2 different, like 4 feet, 3 feet apart, and you're trying to support it as much. And if you let go of one, the whole thing falls. You know what I mean? So to me, that just
arms and everything.
Yeah. To me, that's just like you're saying. I loved holding a Burmese, and I used to do shows all the time with them when I used to work at a zoo before, and it was cool, but I hated the feeling of feeling like you were lifting like a limp noodle is the best way to describe it, right? Mike's dirty thoughts.
I'm guessing
are
your African rock wasn't like that.
So an African rock's very different, right? But they have more like the boa shaped body. Like they're more of a I don't know, like a compressed down the middle and like high up, like almost more like a boa shaped body, right? If that makes sense. But I found Burmese were just sluggish, and I found with Bloods as well. They're more of a rounded body type, and I know they're muscular and I know they're really strong, but they're still, I don't know. To me, when I hold those animals, I like the prehensile tile. I like the strength that you get from it, and for me, it would never work. But I can appreciate their beauty way more. So I don't know. That was just my thought. On that note, Mike, anything else you want to chat about before we close it out?
Now that I think of it, I'm like, damn, we didn't even hit on annulated tree boas, because that's like one of those like weird different arboreal corralis that I actually wouldn't mind keeping eventually. Like Rushis are cool, but they're almost a little intimidating, being basically like a scrub python that's a tree boa. Well, the annulateds are just like neat. Like I love their patterns, and like even the brown ones are pretty cool. Obviously, the orange ones are harder to come by, but I know when I hit up Michael Berger to try to get him on at some point, and he said he would, because he does have some Canadian herp kind of connection. So he says he's actually lined up to do a few podcasts, but he's finishing another book, so he wants to NIHS and that. So he's focusing on that, but he said to hit him up in the fall. So we will do an annulated show eventually. But is there like how successful have you been with them? We can be kind of short with it because I know it's getting pretty late for you guys.
With annulateds, I was somewhat successful with them, but then my male died, and my female, I would give her a year off, and then she would decide to take another year off. So it was sort of every 3 years that she would go, and yeah, boas are tough, man. And then sometimes that was another one where the most successful I was the first time. So the first time I bred her, had 11 perfect babies, and then the last time I bred her, I had like an infertile slug and a stillborn. So even while you were talking, I was like, man, you got to get Michael Berger on, because he's the one that I would love to listen to that episode.
Oh yeah.
And
I didn't even know he was a trope guy too. Like he used to keep Tropodophis and all that. I love my Caribbean stuff. So I got the Bahama boas, and actually, as we were talking about the extra male stuff, like they're not from the same line, but I was able to acquire another adult male Bahama that I'm not, because it's from a different line, I'm not pairing it with the Nassau locale ones I have, but they finally like started pairing. Like they used to be at my buddy Ty's, so they used to live here actually, and then now they're back here and they're finally going. So that's kind of neat. But yeah, with the
that's super cool.
That's gonna be. I hope I don't end up with a clutch full of slugs again, because actually when I got her, she gave me like 30 slugs. So we'll see. Bahamas are one of those. I don't know. They're just so underrated, right? It's probably how you feel with the Sumatrans, where they're so cool, but just nobody actually understands or knows about them. They're an animal you kind of have to see in person too, to see all and then compare them. Like if you look at Jeff Murray's site, right? Like he has all the pictures, like a bunch of these are produced by him as well, and like some of the other ones from the same clutch because he's bred them, and they're like some that are basically blue and silver, and others are super dark, and they're just all over the place. But the annulateds, I'm assuming you kind of have them also set up in those same kind of setups with the 4x2x3s.
I don't have them. Yeah, I don't have them anymore. I kept them mostly in 3-foot cages. At the time, it was before I had these ones, and they don't. What's nice is they don't perch like an emerald, but if you design the cage right, you can design it to where they will hide out in the open, so to speak, right? And but yeah, they like to hide. But
any
man, they're
regular issues with them or no?
No, I never had any.
Nice.
The
I think Jeff referred to one line maybe having issues with that, but that might have been another in his episode he did last year with Rob, and that he you kind of talked about how like one line was maybe known for it. Same as how there was one old line of basins, I think too, that was Recurgy, like the Argentine rainbows.
Yeah, no, I didn't have any issues with mine. Mine came from Paul Bradshaw. I didn't get them from him directly, but I know I kind of tracked him down, and yeah, I really, really enjoyed them. They're a lot of fun. There's a lot to be done with them. But it's hard. It's hard to line breed an animal, or it's hard to like, because I had some animals that I felt like were pretty high white, or you kind of getting into like that calico look. And I felt like, man, if we put both of those together, like what's going to come out? But when you got to wait 7, 8, 9, 10 years before you can get the first litter, my animals were 9 years old the first time I bred them, and you can only do that a few times, and then you're an old man.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I really, really like the snakes, but my friend has some more of them, and he's got some orange ones and some yellow ones, and so I sent mine over there, and hopefully he can
gift you back some babies eventually.
Maybe, or just it just gets to the point where I just want to see what comes out. Like
you're
like, hey, did you ever breed that male? Did you breed that high white male? Did anything and what came out? I just want to see what comes out.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. I feel that's the Bahamas are like my passion project. That like these will probably never make me any money, but they're just so cool that like my house is gonna be filled with Bahama boas if they ever breed, because I'm gonna want to hold them back for like a year just to see what they all kind of want to start looking like, and to get them established too at the same time. But no, we all have to have those projects, right? That really keeps you going on it. Do you have any plans to add anything this year, or are you just kind of staying status quo and just kind of keep him better with what you kind of have, kind of thing?
I definitely want to keep what I have better, especially with the barons and the rhinos. This may be my last year with mangrove snakes. I'd really like this to be my last year with ball pythons. And I love mangrove snakes. Like, they're great, but they're hard to interact with. I can't have anybody else interact with them, and they're nerve-wracking to breed, and so I'd like to, I paired them up earlier this month, and I got one confirmed lock, and then I went in on Friday, I believe, and I went in, and one of the dividers had slid open, and my heart just sank because I didn't know if I was going to find one snake or two. And fortunately, the male and the female, they were just cuddling in the hide box. So I'm hoping that we got another inadvertent lock with the other pair as well. And but I separated those, and I'll be watching those. I'm tempted on some things like everybody that's kept Russian rat snakes has really said they're super rewarding, and it would just be nice. My kids are 6 and 8 now, and they can't hold anything that I've got, because and I would like them to be able to do that, And so
my friend could probably hook you up with some Diones and Koreans if you wanted to go down that route too.
I don't want to get crazy with it. I really have I have about 130 snakes right now. I would really like to cut that in half. I think.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I didn't even realize you had that many. I thought you probably have like 20 or 30 based on, but I'm guessing there's some holdbacks there and stuff.
Yeah, and I would like to I want to go. I want to go strong with the diamonds. Love the diamonds. I've got some holdbacks that I'm growing up, and I don't plan on doing any less of those. And like I said, the rhinos and the barons, I just want to get better at. I've only ever produced the blue barons, but I have brown ones now. I don't think that they're going to go this year. I think the female is a little too small. The greens, I've got a green one, and I got a funky looking wild caught two-tone green yellow one. We'll see. We got a lock out of that one, so we'll see what happens. But so yeah, I just want to keep the stuff that I've got better, and then I'd like to do something where I can share it with other people. So if I get Russians and share it with my kids or something, I think that would be fun. I'm curious into some things like, I mean, I really loved tiger rat snakes when I kept them. I really think aquatic snakes are cool, like the Homolopsis or the twig snake, the tentacled snakes. I've got some friends that keep those.
Yeah, those are always cool.
I think that's really, really interesting. As well as like slug snakes. I've had a soft spot for slug snakes. When I was in the Amazon, we found like Dasypeltis I think that's just like how cool is that? It's like, it's a small enough snake that you can keep it in a really nice, display enclosure, and, snails are pretty easy to come by. So I think that would be really, really cool to do, but I don't have any plans on adding anything. Like I need to.
Yeah, those all, other than the Russians, are pretty straightforward. Like, you're just gonna keep them ambient and they'll do just fine, kind of thing. But those Homolopsis, like, you gotta buy like fish and keep it's worse than keeping a turtle because it's a snake kind of thing, right? Like it's a whole nother level, but it's cool, right? But it's one of those like, hey, you'd end up being Mike Clarkson with however many fish tanks he has in his house while he's also going off and shooting TV shows and stuff somehow.
Yeah, that's crazy. My son wants to get a lizard, and I would want to get him a lizard, but he can't make up his mind. And so I don't know. We'll see. I keep trying to push him towards a blue tongue skink, right? Like something like I don't have to feed it insects, like it'll be fine.
Feed it once a week.
Yeah. But I'm also I've also been fascinated with chameleons, so I was like, oh, and one of our friends has a chameleon. It's like,
you should try Parsons then. You should dive down that rabbit hole. And let's do the chameleons. So let's do the biggest chameleon.
I do Jacksons.
Yeah. I love Jacksons.
I love Jacksons.
I mean, who wouldn't want to try Triceratops?
That's
I think
so
that would
cool.
be super cool.
They come in. I think they come in wild caught still, but like you could easily pick. But then every time they come in wild caught, the females drop babies, so you could easily pick up some captive hatched kind of ones, and those would actually be neat to breed too, because like because some of them are wild caught. It's just as easy enough to, or I guess you could go down that rabbit hole and talk to Bill Strand and kind of see where you want to go there too, right?
But then you're in the position you're going to be in with your Pac-Man frogs, where you got 50 Jackson's chameleons, and you gotta feed,
but they'll move
for 4 months,
pretty well, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, they'd probably move a little easier than a pack, but it's like we're in that part of the hobby where where you're like, we could do this, and then your mind starts turning.
Yeah,
so many ways.
Yeah.
So talking about new additions, I'm supposed to get a pair of ring pythons, but the guy I get them from, they're not coming. So I don't know what's wrong with that guy. But
if the shipping company will ever get back to me. So
Michael, get me my goddamn ring pythons.
I tried. Like I think on it, maybe if you just send them my payment, I don't know. I'm not sure. They seem to listen to you and Tyrone, but I don't know.
They're just ignoring you. Terry, one quick question with a one-word answer, because we're getting late. Barons racers or rhinos? Which is the best? One-word answer, no explanation.
Rhinos.
I thought he was going to say Barons.
No.
All right. Fair enough. All right, Mike, you good to close it out?
Yeah, sure. Unless you wanted to close it out like normal. But never mind. I have to say.
No, I mean, like, do you have anything else to open up? Well, Terry, honestly, that was actually really fun. That was really cool. Maybe later in the future we should have you back on, because I feel like there's so much more we could have dove into, and you were a great guest. So I really appreciate you coming on. Appreciate your time. And would you mind just letting people know how they get a hold of you if they want to buy something from you or simply hound you on anything else?
Yeah, sure. I think I post my stuff on Morph Market. I have a business page on Facebook. It's called TB Snakes. It's Terry Burwell Snakes. You can find me on Messenger, and then you can email me at it's just burwell.terry@gmail.com. I have an Instagram account at Terry Burwell, at Terry Burwell, but I'm a better husband and father and friend when I'm off Instagram. And so I only check it about once a quarter. So don't message me on Instagram. But I posted a bunch of snakes there from everything that we've talked about has been there. I haven't posted on there for about a year. But yeah, if you want to get hold of me, you know, my phone number. Awesome. You can find my phone number. I'll give you my phone number.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Terry, for coming on. Yeah. It was awesome to talk to you finally. I think everybody listening to this will have probably heard you on other podcasts too. So it's good to hear from you again. And yeah, I can't wait to have you on again, kind of thing. It seems like every guest we have on, you want to have them on again because you never talk about everything you want to talk about. So yeah, no.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's really been a lot of fun. And like you said, it's been a while since I've done one of these, so it's always fun to be invited back.
Yeah, for sure. Now you're gonna get 5 phone calls to do 5 more in the next month.
You're gonna do the rounds, right? It's like so you see one good guest on, and like, oh man, like they just did him. Oh, we got to get him on, and then you're like, oh, we gotta wait, but we'll see.
Or it's nobody, like when Adam does it, because Adam releases his shows like 2 months after he records it, and then you have a guest all lined up, and you do the whole show, and then he pops an episode out with the same guest, which is actually probably a good thing because then people search up that guest name and your show comes up at the same time, so it's probably not a bad thing. But it's funny how it all works.
Perfect. So Terry, just hang on if you can, just for a little bit after we close it out, just to make sure your upload works. But I think it's looking perfect. So for everybody, thanks for logging on. Thanks for listening. Just to recap everything, if you want to listen to us live, it's usually every Sunday at 8 Eastern Standard Time or whatever time Michael's at. This week, Wednesday, we're doing in the Frog Show, which we'll see how that goes. Wednesday at 8. And I'm just saying because, I'll be like the brand new fresh keeper that has no idea what they're saying. So I will ask the stupidest questions. And Michael will probably be slightly smarter than me on that one. If you are listening on YouTube or anything like that, guys, please just help the algorithm. Click those stupid buttons like the little bell, the little thingies, the subscribe, and all those things. On the podcast, again, feel free to leave a review, leave a comment. Feel free to follow us. Appreciate everything. And again, thanks, Terry. Appreciate you coming on. And to everybody, thank you. Have a good night.